I think you're muted. I don't know if you can hear me. You're muted. Can't hear.
There we go.
You should be able to hear us now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much for speaking up. I'm going to start this whole spiel again. I call to order the Tuesday, August 12, 2025, 7 p.m. Yes, meeting of the Planning Board, Zoning Board of Adjustment of Flemington Borough. This in-person and virtual meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. Both adequate and electronic notice of this in-person and virtual meeting has been provided by way of publication in the Huntingdon County Democrat and Courier newspapers on or about January 23rd, 2025 and January 19th, 2025. In addition, notice of the meeting was posted on the door of the Borough of Flemington Municipal Building located at 38 Park Avenue and any handicap accessible entrances thereto, posted on the municipal website, provided to the municipal clerk and distributed to all persons of any requesting copies of the same. This meeting is being recorded with both audio and video and may be rebroadcast. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Can rise as you are able for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Paula, could we take a roll call? Did I let you know that Mark Hay is excused his message?
Mayor Carroll? Here. Councilwoman Sorrow? Here. Mr. Campion?
Here.
Ms. Giffen?
Here.
Ms. Weitzman? Here. Ms. Swingle? Here. Mr. Schultz?
Here.
Mr. Schleinger?
Here.
Mr. Dodson?
Here.
Mr. Reynolds?
Here.
Mr. Haynes? No, I'm sorry.
Room is excused.
Excuse Miss Barca. She's on vacation.
Excused.
She's excused.
Thank you.
No, I'm sorry, the professionals. Attorney Krasinski.
Here.
Engineer Clerico.
Here.
Planner McManus. Here. And Engineer Crown.
Here.
Full house. All right, item 1 on our agenda, as always, is public comments. This is for comments from the public, either in person or online, for items not currently on tonight's agenda. If anybody has anything, either raise your hand or wave at me crazily in the room. Okay, I see none. So moving on, item 2, mayor comments, please.
Only one. I see that Mr. King is in the audience. The council and the governing body received a request from him. The state is allowing tents now back to the COVID standards. And he is requesting to put a tent back up till the end of the fall in his parking spaces in the front. Don't even bother. You don't want to do this anymore?
No, I just, those times just seating right now.
Just seating. And because all that parking, the condition of his resolution and the handicaps as well. When it was discussed at the council 2 weeks ago. It was felt that it belonged here to make a decision, and handle it however the planning board sees fit and. So I'm bringing it to your attention.
So that Bob doesn't have to waste too much time, I will say that we need to pull together, unfortunately, because of the way the site plans go and the way that the
Right away.
right of ways and your lot goes right through the middle of the parking spaces. We are going to have to do a little bit more due diligence to pull everything together with all the documents that are relevant. And I'll ask my professionals to do that between this meeting and the next meeting so that we can work out what we need to do in order to see if we can get that done. Is that fair enough?
Thank you very much.
That's no problem. And sorry that we don't have it today, but in doing some due diligence, we found we needed to do a little bit more.
I appreciate how this works.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have one question.
Yeah,
Do we have a size of a tent or a location so we can compare that against whatever the plans and resolution of this
Basically,
plan?
the front parking area, wherever you see the front, and I would have to relocate, there is a handicap.
Okay,
I would be willing to move the handicap to the side to accommodate that, or if you say the handicap spot has to remain, I can work around that.
Okay,
It's just, seating is so critically important for us, and right now it's extremely limited.
do you know how many parking spaces directly in front it would be?
Here would be 6, then the handicap would make 7.
6, okay, thank
So
you,
one's
that's helpful.
The ones directly in front of your building, not in front of the other building that now has the.
Right in front of our,
Just in
just in
front
front of our.
6 plus 1 handicap there, I think. And it would be, you would want to just, the line that you would want to mark off would be to the end of the parking spots, it's not outside of them,
No,
that's
that's right,
right.
I would, may have approached a little bit further last time, but I will remain within the parking spots.
Alright, is that the information we need?
Yes, that's perfect.
Alright, well, we'll work on that in the background, and keep you updated.
Thank
If
you
it-
very much, I appreciate it.
No problem at all, try our best. Try our best. And Mayor, any further comments? Sorry, I jumped in on your comments there.
No, that's it, thank you.
Thank you. Item 3 is council comments.
I will reserve comments for our discussion on item number 8.
Okay, alright, thank you. Item 4, HPC comments.
We didn't have a meeting since the last planning board meeting. Our next meeting is on the 20th. And out of that meeting, we'll be providing the planning board with information from the HPC on the ordinance. We have quite a few items on the agenda for next week, so I'll have a lot to report after that.
And I'll bring out in item 8, where we'll want your input.
Okay.
We can talk about that, no problem. Thank you. Well, we're working through. Item 5, professional reports. I'm aware how it's gonna go. Item 5, but I'll just keep it simple. Any professional reports of things that aren't on the agenda today? Anybody want to bring it? No. Perfect. Item 6, the approval of minutes, which is our backdated minutes. We're gonna pull together a packet for the next meeting, right?
Okay, I know there's 2 of them, the March and the June I've looked at, I do have to look at April and May.
So on June, you're good with.
June I'm fine with, and March I'm fine with.
It's this.
So just to May.
We just want to send everything to the board. It's one thing,
Maybe.
it's outdated, and just do it all
That's fine.
next meeting, next, yeah.
We don't have a timeliness issue, correct?
Well,
We're fine.
Yeah.
Listen,
We
we're
will-
doing our best, we're under extreme circumstances, so.
We're running meetings, we're doing agendas, we're
I-
doing figure
Correct.
things.
I don't, I just wanna make sure we have a statutory
We're
number.
okay.
That was my first question on which ones we make sure we get done and which things we get done.
And we always have the video as well, so if anybody ever asks for anything, we have something to provide them, which actually is more accurate and more
Can be.
succinct than and capturing them.
With that said in mind, having listened to some of them to help do the minutes.
Yep.
We really do need to make sure we do this, because often when we get involved in our little discussions, we go like this, and it doesn't pick any of it up, it gets very quiet sometimes, so I'll just remind the board, please. Get as close as you can to your mic. Right, that's that. Alright, let's move on to, right, item 7, which is, I wrote it as resolution compliance / discussion. You tell me what the correct name is. for what we need
That's
to do.
completely fine, I
And
think
I'm
that
gonna-
encompasses a lot of what we're talking about here.
Shall I have you open it up for what we need to do? There's 3 things.
Council's here.
Oh, council,
So,
first, and what they wanna do.
Yep,
Right.
why don't we start out and let him tell the board, I know there has been some dialogue back and forth via correspondence memos, I think the board has received them. But I'll let Mr. Pepe take it away.
Mhm.
Is
Oh.
like on now or?
Yes.
Do I need to turn your, you need to turn your
You
own
could just turn
camera
your camera on your laptop. for-
so we can see your face for the video.
Oh, I'm not presenting yet, he's just talking.
Right, but
Yeah, we
our
need to
folks
see it.
can't see him if the camera's not on. So,
The people online can't take it yet.
There it is.
There you go.
Beautiful.
I did a little tilt and we're all good.
Oh, lovely.
Down a little. So, great, now we're all on screen.
Yeah.
Good evening, thank you first and foremost all for your time. My name is Donald Pepe, I'm with the law firm of Scarinci Hollenbeck. I represent HBC Liberty Village Urban Renewal LLC. We're here to discuss what I'll characterize as 5 general areas of concern that we have with respect to the current resolution as it's written. And it's a lot less than I think you may be anticipating based on some of the review letters and the highlighting that came out today. So the 5 general areas are to discuss a Stagel Road detour, to discuss a proposed change to the ground floors of, and the facade of the townhomes that are gonna be affordable. The fence and the landscaping that is required adjacent to Lone Eagle Brewery. Outside, what I'll characterize as outside agency approvals and the timing with which we have to comply. And then a soil testing issue. I have my professionals here this evening to talk on those subject matters. I don't know if I mentioned it, the original resolution was 2025-04. Give you a little update as to the status of the property. All the demolition is done. The environmental remediation work contracting is being wrapped up, pricing is being wrapped up, and that work's scheduled to start next week. We are looking to clarify some of the items with respect to timing, largely because my experience differs from what the practice appears to be here, in that there are some approvals that naturally take longer and don't necessarily need to be done before a site plan and a subdivision plan are signed. The reason for that is they're not really reflected on the plans. They are things like complying with the homeowners association, master deed requirements. Those documents haven't been created yet because that's really in the hands of the vertical partner that's going to be building the town. So now that's to go through the DCA and the like. So that's just by way of an example. I'm going to actually, Mr. Pucci will probably identify the great majority of those types of items, which we're characterizing as outside agency approval. Our ask with respect to each of them is that we can get the site plan and subdivision plans signed so that we can submit them to the utility companies, because they won't do their work, final designs, until they have final site plans. The subdivision will allow us to go forward with the donations to the borough, as previously characterized. And we recognize the need to complete and satisfy each and every condition. We're just saying that some of these conditions can be moved to a building permit condition, so we couldn't go forward with the townhomes until we're all satisfied. So for us, it's really just a timing issue. With that, I guess I'll let Mr. Pucci start.
And I guess just to clarify, for the board's purposes, one of the things that I think we also wanted to accomplish tonight with Mr. Pepe and his professionals here is to figure out which of these items could be done by way of a condition amendment and which may or may not require a application and a site plan amendment, which would then necessitate public hearings. So I think that's something that we're looking as we find out more information of exactly what these things are. This is a timing issue that we can look at the condition and interpret it to allow just an amendment to push the can down a little bit further, or does it involve more than that? So that's what I think we also need to be looking at. Well,
Okay, we'll keep that in mind and ask any questions. Thanks.
So I guess first thing.
for the testimony you're about to give us for the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but.
I do.
Good evening, Mr. Pucci. Your license as a civil engineer is current, state of New Jersey?
That is correct.
As a planner, current, state of New Jersey?
Correct.
You've testified before the board in connection with this application.
I have.
Madam Chairs, is he acceptable as a professional?
He wasn't before.
So he has been already.
Oh, God, it's older.
We don't need any more testimony.
Let's start off though, so I think this will make many of the board members happy. Mr. Clerico recirculated his July 21st, 2025 memorandum. And in it, he highlighted those items that are not yet complied with. I think the concern may be that we have to go through all of them. I don't think that's the case.
That is true. There are yellow highlights within the letter, I believe, to the tune of 48 comments. And I would say the lion's share of them, no problem. We will do, and in fact, in many cases have already done address those comments. There are a handful of issues that are not quite spelling, to the letter of the resolution condition. And those are the ones that Mr. Pepe announced just about 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, and those are the few that we want to go through and got clarification on.
Okay, do you wanna go through them in that order then, or is there a different order than you said?
Well, I believe the first thing you mentioned was which.
Detour?
Stangle Road?
Yeah, so you wanna just
That's right.
explain, I mean, you wanna.
For Stangle Road, I just go take a seat.
Well, that's what I mean, do you wanna do that first, or the one that you're on the table for?
I have Mike here now, so let's talk about the Lone Eagle fence issues.
Alright, let's do number 3.
Okay, so one of the conditions in the resolution says that we have to place a particular fence in a particular location with trees on both sides of it. And that fence, the exact detail of it was provided to us from Lone Eagle Brewery in a letter of, I believe it was December. They gave us the exact detail of the fence that they wanted to place. And told us where we agreed where we're gonna place it. Literally, they have a 10-foot easement at the northern end of our property, which is west of Stangle Road, and allowed to share my screen.
Yes.
It's not letting. So,
Oh,
Don, while he's doing that, do you have a specific condition that he's trying to find?
I do.
Find Carol.
Alright. Yes.
You're pretty good, Bob. I have them all listed.
Maybe. Should pop up now, I had to press some.
As well as hiring all here. And the fees are.
Then you start,
There you go.
few seconds to.
So. At the very northern end, I said on the west side,
Can you zoom in?
I'm sure you're all familiar where the Polo building was, that. Okay, so. So this box right here, this gray shaded area, is the number 13. That was the Polo building, and then just a little bit was the. I'm gonna say your internet is rather slow, it's getting very choppy.
Yeah.
Just to the left of the number 13 is the parking lot that used to serve the Polo building, which is just directly below. The brewery building has the words limited curb removal in the middle of the brewery building. Just below that building, you see there's a little white gap up to a dark line. That white gap was at the time the existing patio for the brewery. And then the next 10 feet up to the next dark line that is within the applicant's property. That happens to be a 10-foot easement to Lone Eagle Brewery from the Liberty Village property. And so what has happened is the Lone Eagle Brewery has expanded their patio up to that 10-foot limit line, which is basically the curb line of the old parking lots. In that patio area, they have obviously, patio tables, lighting, and so it's developed for their use. They also have placed a metal, I guess you call it a white, like I'm not sorry, it's a black, it looks like a Jarrett aluminum picket fence, limiting, the edge of their patio at our property line, so, or at their easement. We had agreed during the hearing to place a fence at that location, but they've already placed the fence there. So it seems counterintuitive for us to then take their fence that they just put in at the extension of their patio, rip it out and put in a new one. And also the condition in the resolution stipulates we have to plant on both sides of that fence. The 7 trees that were supposed to go on the north side of that fence would quite frankly be stupid, because they'd be planted in the middle of a patio that they've just expanded with tables and lights. So it does not make any sense to put those trees there. I met with Mr. Clarico and Mr. Campion last week, and we presented an alternative, which was to donate those 7 trees to the borough and let the borough place them wherever they see fit. I understand from Mr. Campion that there is precedent in the borough for such a mechanism, so we're here to seek, I guess, a modification of the condition to allow the existing fence that was just placed by Brewery to remain instead of us ripping out their new fence and putting in another one. And to not place the 7 trees on their part of the property that is within their easement where they currently have a patio.
Am I dreaming or did Mr. King say that during during the hearing that he didn't have trees on his side?
That is our understanding.
He said no.
I do not want the trees.
You do not want, you did say that at the public hearing.
Yes.
I know, I'm confused why that we let this go, because I thought we talked about that whole thing.
Well, we all missed it in the resolution.
In the resolution.
Both sides missed it in the
Our
resolution.
resolution.
Not your fault, there's two sides to it.
So then, if I remember.
9 people looked at it, so.
No, so. Not to relitigate all of but there was a potential objection that was resolved through dialogue. And then y'all came to a meeting and said, hey, we worked this all out. Was this part of that work it all out?
It was part of it, yes, and what I just moved to now is you can see the fence now with it says 10-foot patio easement. And the location of where we were supposed to put a fence, and there already is one now. What was also negotiated during the process of the hearings was this string of buildings used to be 5 units. There was another one up at the top, and they're too close to them. That was moved over to the other side by Route 12. And this area was flattened out and a swale was introduced on our side of the fence to make sure that any stormwater that is generated by rain falling on the grass adjacent to the unit does not wash onto Mr. Payne's patio, but actually gets intercepted by the swale and directed into the wetland area to the west.
And then the other piece of this was making sure we had adequate landscaping buffer between a residential use and brewery. And so that has not changed from what you're saying, right?
Or other than the fact that we don't want to place the 7 trees on the north side of the fence in the middle of his patio.
But you're still doing landscaping on the other side.
On the
Correct.
other side. Okay.
So you're just keeping it to your side of the fence.
And donating 7 trees.
7 trees.
And is Mr. King happy with leaving his fence there rather than you putting a different fence up? Was it, is what,
I don't know that
Because
we
you're-
asked that question.
the current fence is reasonably low and steep. Was the proposed fence like some sort of image blocking one?
It was gonna be a 6-foot solid fence.
Right,
It had like a stone veneer panel built into it, yes.
right,
Oh,
and so you said you spoke to Mr. Campion,
Yeah,
except for about trees. Did you then, have you spoken to Mr. King about whether which fence he would prefer?
I thought you were okay with your fence. I put a lot of trees there.
You want them to just put a lot of trees?
I'm a big fan of trees.
We can certainly try to locate as many of the 7 being moved.
I'm just waiting for
To that side as
West.
possible.
That's what I was wondering, could you put all 14 on one side, off 7 trees and 7 bushes? So
I was from the landscaping plan as soon as my computer.
You're asking the people who usually deal with trees, I'm not.
Oh, yeah, I'm over there, yeah.
So,
That's it.
Yeah.
so perhaps we could think about working with our board planner to maximize the vegetative buffer. The best.
I appreciate that flexibility. I think that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
And then whatever cannot be maximized there would be donated to the
Donated.
borough and placed elsewhere.
That seems like a reasonable statement.
As best I could see, that's gears turning about finding tree spots.
Yeah, so what Bob and I were just chatting about is, it seems that there's an opportunity to add. It seems there's an opportunity to add a few additional trees to the opposite side of the fence of Lone Eagle. Right now, on their proposed landscape plan for resolution compliance, it shows a single row of evergreen trees. I think there's an opportunity to add additional trees in that area, although I don't know that it's a second row of evergreen trees. The only thing that I've asked Bob to start to take a look at, we need to work out, is to make sure it's not interfering with swell. So that's
Right along the fence,
Correct.
so as long as you stay like 10 feet off the fence, you're probably all
Or even
right.
5 would make it work.
then we may have to move the row of trees that were originally proposed then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Waiting for technology to speed up so I can show you the landscape. You probably have it in front of you.
Yeah, I do, I was just looking
I
at
can't
that.
share with that.
But I think so I guess the short answer is yes, there's an opportunity for us to work together to provide the required row of trees and potentially a few additional ones to give additional screening as opposed to replacing the fence with a solid fence, if that's not what's preferred by the neighbor.
So Ken, the resolution said was discussing with you, with the professional, that the neighbour is included in the discussion for the complaint, is that possible or is that not?
I'm comfortable with that. I'm gonna defer to Kara if she's comfortable with it from a legal perspective.
I'm okay, but I think Bob's indicated, at least so far, what his preference is. We can work with that, but certainly to
wanted
get
to
his
give him-
okay. Yep.
Give him the
Yep.
respect of showing him the plan and saying this is what Beth's gonna agree.
The only thing I'm unclear of, so we're not going to, we're going to, well, the proposal again, for discussion purposes is to not amend the style of fencing to match the existing fencing. You're going to keep what was proposed, he's going to keep the new fencing that was there, and we'll really just work around the landscape.
It's not true.
Okay.
What
Explain that.
what is there now?
Yep.
Is in lieu of what was shown on our site plans.
Got it, okay. So you will be removing the fence that was proposed
From the
and
plan.
just got it.
On the plans, they're not gonna remove the physical fence.
Yep,
Whatever is
okay.
there in situ.
And do we want to kind of touch on the issue you initially raised, Ms. Kaczynski, on a case by case basis? I don't think this is a material change, particularly since we're just relocating some plantings. So I don't see this as something that could require site plan approval. Although maybe in conjunction with the other issues, you might change your mind, but how do you want to address that?
Yeah, I think maybe we'll look at them in totality, because that might help, because if there's one,
Glad to.
then.
I'm just, if there's a
I got
way
it,
we
yep,
can kind of
yep.
massage things so that you are
Understood.
comfortable, I wouldn't
Understood,
want to do
understood.
it. Okay. So I think that takes care of that issue. Thank you, everyone.
Now, to be fair to Mr. Clerico, you're gonna amend it so that this written confirmation is gone out of the condition, right?
Replacing with.
So we just got, I think, very.
What essentially happened.
Different conditions.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
essentially happened is, so if this was the only thing that we were dealing with tonight, to Mr. Pepe's point, we would be going through the machinations of, the board understands what the change in the condition would be. And do they feel that that would be a substantial change? And do they feel that their vote on the application would have been changed by virtue of the change in that condition? If the answer to that is no, then we can do that tonight without a public hearing, without notice and all that other stuff. If the answer to that is yes, then we'd have to go the second round. So that's why I'm thinking if we go through everything and then, because if there's one, then we might.
Exactly, might wrap it up into whatever gets, let's go through all the points and see where we land.
Okay.
Fair enough?
I'm going to jump to what I will acknowledge is the most difficult issue to discuss. Because we had a lot of conversation about soil testing at the prior hearing, so Mr. Pucci, wanna describe what was done and what the outcome was and where we went wrong?
Went wrong.
Well, we had an obligation to notify Mr. Cutterfield.
No, okay.
We did not.
Yes. So we had, I'm just gonna share my screen again and. Just. The whole concept plan. This was part of the redevelopment agreement, part of the hearings over and over again. It's been updated. So what happened was. We testified over several hearings about using the prior LSRP's groundwater investigation work. And basing our design of all of our stormwater management system on that work. And I believe it was Mr. Dashna that said, well, how do we trust that? How do we know you're not gonna have to redesign the whole project and throw everything out and waste all of our time for these hearings? But we were confident that the results were going to be pretty darn close to what we expected. And they were for everything west of the extension of Central Station from Church down to Tunnel. Everything on the left side, there were very minor adjustments to an elevation on one or two of the bioretention systems. Some had no change at all. Because what we learned is that the data from the prior LSRP kind of stopped at the extension of Central, more or less, a little bit to the right of it. But what we have is newer information for what was previously known as the East Bioretention System, which happens to be right here, just above what is next, the Brown Street Basin. And then down at the very southeast corner, the Route 12 Basin. In those locations, the groundwater, my work table that was encountered was high enough that we had to lift the bottom of the basins to the point where if we kept the Brown Street Basin as a bioretention system, the bottom of it would be above what it's serving, which is all the area to the east on Grant and Brown. That basin does not accept flow from the project site other than the surface area of itself. It accepts, I think it's about 7 acres of inflow, all from municipally developed areas where you have a flooding problem along Brown Street, just north of Grant. There's a low point in the road, and even in the minor rain, it floods. So that basin was incorporated into our plans to help alleviate that flooding, to bring the water onto a basin, hold it and release it over time. But because of the DEP rules of having to have a certain distance between the seasonal high water table and the bottom of a biofiltration basin, we had to change that basin to be an extended detention basin. Different type of basin, and I'm gonna put that to the side for a second and say basically the same result occurred at the Church Street basin in the bottom right. That particular basin, I'm sorry, I said Church.
Not Route 12.
Route 12 basin. In the bottom right corner here, this Route 12 basin, same thing, the groundwater was high enough where I had to lift the bottom and make it into an extended detention basin, not what it was previously was a large scale bioretention system. That one happens to accept flow from about 60% of the inflow comes from the backyards of the homes here on Brown Street. And about 40% comes from the yard areas and the roof areas of the project site, plus the surface area of the basin itself. So that particular basin gets absolutely no, I'll call it dirty stormwater. It's all clean water under the DEP guidelines. It only accepts roof areas and grass areas, no pavement areas and motor vehicle services. Those two basins are now extended detention basins. And the stormwater rules do not allow extended detention basins as a means of water quantity control without a waiver from DEP. Now, our position is, okay, we know we need a waiver from DEP. That's an outside agency approval. We already have a DEP flood hazard area permit where they approved the whole stormwater management system. At the time, these were bioretention. We have to go back to DEP and explain to them, okay, well, the groundwater situation that we tested after we were able to do so by virtue of the LSRP and the remediation and cleanup, we got the information and it's too high for the Brown Street Basin to work to give the town any benefit. And so we want to switch them to extended detention basins. We know we're gonna have to seek that permit. And I view that as the called an outside agency approval that the approval of the board can be granted subject to. However, Mr. Clerico is stuck between a rock and a hard place because for him to certify that the plan, our stormwater management plan, meets the stormwater rules, he can't because we have to seek that waiver, but that waiver has to be granted by DEP, not by the borough. So it's kind of a catch-22 and we're seeking the condition amendment, if you will. And this is only the first half of this, that we would like to go to the DEP as the ultimate authority, the higher authority here, and condition your approval that on their approval of an amendment or a modification to our flood hazard area permit. That's part A. Part B was the witnessing requirement. And there are two conditions, I believe they were, I want to say 12 and 31.
18 and 31, I think.
12 and 31.
12?
Alright, yeah, they're 12 and 31, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, page 18 of the resolution. Pretty well.
So condition 12 in the resolution mandated that there, basically, it's meant to do the testing. It had to be witnessed by Mr. Clerico's office. And it deferred to condition 31 for the timing of when the testing can be done, when the witnessing should be done. Condition 31 spells out 3 particular times at when that testing should be done. I believe it's during remediation, during or prior to site improvements, and at the end, I can actually give you all 3.
And prior to commencement of construction of site improvement.
I think that was number 2. Is it 3?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's 3. Number 2 is upon completion of the soil importation. So there were 3 different times that the testing could be witnessed if it were performed. In condition 31, yeah, did not say that Mr. Clerico must witness it. It said that he can witness it or it can be witnessed if required. So it's not a mandate. It was.
No, it doesn't say that. I don't think.
That was such a bone of contention by
Okay.
Mr. Clerico
Hmm.
at the hearings. I mean,
That's neither here nor there. That's-
The
so,
fact is, as Mr. Pepe said, our client and one of these contractors failed to notify Mr. Clerico of the testing. So that's a conundrum because now he cannot certify that the testing was done in accordance with the condition. And that has a two-edged sword to it. On the one hand, would the testing have been any different or the results been any different had the correct notice been provided to Mr. Clerico's office and he had someone out there witnessing? That is basically relying upon the reputation of the firm that did the work and their accuracy in doing the work, but there's an interpretive element to it. If the work was done by soil morphology and looking at modeling of sidewalk soil profile. But that's, you know, the technical side of it, and I don't believe when I spoke with Mr. Clerico that there really was a concern or question about the technical side of it, it was more the administrative side of it, the condition says, I'm supposed to witness it, I didn't witness it, so I can't say you're in compliance.
Right, did
We did have a license for. Yeah, so.
nobody's questioning I don't think anybody is questioning the people that did the testing. Nobody's questioning that you used a professional body for that. But you agreed to the resolution, correct?
Well, yeah,
We agreed to the resolution. The
all
resolution did say
read through it and we all.
that Mr. Clerico should be there at the following times. 3 times were listed. He wasn't informed of when the testing was taking place. And on item 31, to say that says that he doesn't need to be there, it says in the presence of Clerico or his representative if deemed necessary. Now, I understand that to mean, and other board members can weigh in, that's is his representative if deemed necessary, that he personally wasn't able to go. Not that you didn't have to contact anybody.
Oh, I'm not
Yeah.
saying we weren't supposed to.
So did you, I'm just trying to work out, because as the mayor said, this was a very important issue at the time, that we have Mr. Clerico witness the testing.
it was a compromise position by Mr. Clerico and the board.
No, I'll be very clear, we should have notified him to provide an opportunity to observe the testing, but you know, this. It didn't happen, the contractor was obligated to do it, didn't do it, you know, they had the resolution. It fell through the cracks. Where we are now, though, is that the testing was done, it was certified by a reputable company, I don't believe that the municipality has any issue, or the borough has any issue with respect to the findings, so I'm asking forgiveness for having not satisfied that portion of the condition.
Right, and if I can just add also one reason this is frustrating, is that we had a lot of discussion, if I remember rightly, and if I say this wrong, please, anybody on the board, correct me. We had a lot of discussion about whether to even grant the application correctly, because we wanted this testing to happen before we approved the application, and this was a big compromise for us. And we did explain that then it was extreme, we were trusting you to do this, but because we wanted really to have this before we gave approval. And now to find that you didn't even follow the resolution as it was, I find it extremely frustrating. Anybody else? Or am I just,
It certainly is.
and I appreciate you've apologized for doing that. But still, but then notwithstanding that, we then now find that you can't actually do the design as you said that we thought that the testing was going to show that we wouldn't have to change the design, but we do have to change the design, correct?
So, yeah, on that issue, Mr. Pucci, because we do have to change the design, and there was concern, but I don't think it's a change that implicates the site plan.
As I had mentioned to Mr. Clerico, the change did not result in moving any unit, any basic utility schematic at all. What it did was it lifted the small bioretention systems left of the extension of Central by 0 to a few inches. And on the right side, the 2 former large-scale bioretention systems are now extended detention bases. everything still meets all of the quantity, quality, and recharge requirements of the state stormwater management regulations, with the glaring exception that, as I said, an extended detention basin requires a waiver from DEP to be utilized for the water quality. It's not what they call an accepted green infrastructure device.
So
Can you
it's a
explain
significant,
what
so it's a
visual-
significant, so your testimony is, it's a significant enough change to mean you have to go back to the DEP, is that correct?
Yes, to amend a flood hazard.
So let me ask this question, you might have been about to ask this question, is what? One of the concerns that I articulated during the hearing was that the extension of Central to 12, we lost any sort of. We were talking about some park or whatever, but we had to put the bio retention basin there, what we're calling the Route 12-1. And visually, as a gateway entrance from the west into the borough, what is it gonna look like? Like a bio retention basin has a certain different, I would, what's the difference in aesthetic, the design questions between what a bio retention basin looks like and what you're calling an extended.
An extended detention basin is, the bottom of the basin is generally clear of anything but grass. The perimeter can be heavily landscaped at the board's discretion, but the bottom is kept clear. A bioretention system, the bottom has a number of different plants, and it has a thick soil medium for those plants to grow in that is used for treatment of pollutants. But as I said, these two basins do not accept any pollutants whatsoever from the job. Indeed, one accepts no flow from the job.
So if I'm walking along Route 12, what is it gonna look like in profile, one versus the other?
We can still buffer the Route 12 facade here. I can ask our landscape architect to enhance.
So do we need to change the buffer?
Enhance.
Been shown? We can ask.
Already plans all the way around.
By the way, Mike Campion pointed out an interesting benefit for the town on the Brown Street Basin. The maintenance costs are gonna be much less, just to mow the grass as opposed to maintaining all the plants that have to go into a bioretention basin.
Just so the record shows, George Malone, can we just swear you in real quick?
Sure.
So the testimony about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, nothing.
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, that's fine for the Brown Street area, but you know, we went from having this spectacular fountain to now having
A whole
right area, a hole in the ground, thank you, Mr. Dawson, a hole in the ground.
The fountain is not allowed by DEP in the.
No.
But
I
That was,
understand.
that was the
to
original.
answer your question before.
Yeah,
Besides, so right now we show a buffer of landscaping, and this is by representation, this is not the landscaping plan. For whatever reason, the landscaping plan just will not load up. And the landscape architect is not available. But I can tell you that whatever we represent here on the landscaping plans can be brought to sufficient density to satisfy the concerns of your planner. So that someone walking along Route 12 on that sidewalk that's there, looking in,
Before they realize.
will not notice what's behind it. They will not notice whether the basin behind it has trees or shrubs in the bottom, or is just grass in the bottom. Because there'll be an effective visual screen to prevent that view.
Okay, so that's,
Can I-
yeah, Beth, okay,
Yeah, so I'm looking,
you don't have to push.
Yeah.
You just have to have it close
Just
to you.
bring it closer.
I'm looking at the landscape plan that was submitted for the purpose of resolution compliance, and the basin that's adjacent to Route 12 has a couple dozen plants within the basin outside of the areas that is graded down to the bottom, so at least half a dozen trees and several shrubs. I don't quite know the mix without going through the species list. But there are dozens of trees, dozens of plants within that basin, and the basin proximate to the Brown Street Basin, so to speak, has the same circumstance.
Both of those basins at the time of the creation of those plans you're speaking of were still bioretention.
Yes,
And that's when the testing was going on prior to April 1st in the wet season. And then the results finally got to me weeks later, and that's when we had to adjust the plans. And we made a subsequent submission of just site plans and stormwater management reports.
Yep.
Through Ms. Connor to the board and to Mr. Clerico. So we have yet to release Jason to update his plans pending what happens here.
and I appreciate that, but I just wanted the board to know how. Because I think the concept that was shown in this plan was consistent with the board's decision in the sense that. There are plants, trees, shrubs within the basins to try to increase the aesthetic appeal, so they look nice for surrounding residents and for those traveling Route 12. But I think what I'm hearing is that the required change for the extended release basin is that the plantings within the bottom of the basin outside of the grass needs to be eliminated, correct?
Yes, relocated, eliminate, I mean,
I
really,
appreciate
it's the
that
same.
maybe they can be relocated elsewhere, but from these areas, they need to be eliminated. And so for the board's information, I think it's important to understand that that is gonna be a significant change to the appearance of these particular site features. And yes, I think there's an opportunity to put additional plants along the edges of the basins to try to screen the view in. But it's a very different look. It's, I think, less appeal when you're trying to screen the view in rather than incorporating plants within the basin so that it becomes part of what folks are looking at in the sense that it looks like a more natural area with a variety of plants and shrubs. So it's a very different
But-
appearance.
To that point though, Beth, the plants that were inside were not just aesthetic plants. Those were part of the technical, and I'll ask Bob to
Yeah.
speak on it. They were part of how the basin would work, or is it just any old plant will work? Can you just speak to that in a minute, Bob? And then, but the more important thing to me is, well, I'm not saying that's not important, it is important, but the important part is that Bob raises on page 23 of his report is that we don't have the capacity to allow a variance for this change. So can Bob maybe speak to those two items?
Well, what Mr. Pucci was referring to is that, well, and this is a little bit of an oddity in the regulations, in that the state stormwater regulations deferred the jurisdiction for review of the enforcement of the regulations down to each municipality under your MS4 permit. In this particular situation, the applicant also has an obligation, and initially did this up front to get DEP for flood hazard control as part of DEP's, as part of their review of the flood hazard elements of their application, also review the stormwater. And in their approval of the permits for the flood hazard, and if I'm saying any of this wrong, please correct me, because I'm going on memory a little bit here. In their approval of that particular permit, they also approved the stormwater aspects of the project. And said that if you're gonna modify anything, you have to go back for an amended approval, which is what they indicated, they're gonna have to go back to DEP. There's somewhat of a dilemma on the borough side is that the borough, under our stormwater rules, basically just enforces the template, the state guidelines for stormwater management. The borough, could at some point amend the stormwater rules to incorporate or allow for deviations from those rules, areas of mitigation. For example, if you had an area where for whatever reason you didn't want to have infiltration of groundwater for whatever reason, you could adopt an amended stormwater management plan that said, well, in this part of the borough, we're not going to do recharge for whatever the underlying purpose might be, but we're going to enhance recharge in this other part of the borough. So you have the ability to establish certain ground rules, sort of like a land use law with variances. You have the ability, but the borough never did that when they adopted the regular. Most municipalities never did that when they adopted the regular. They just adopted the vanilla regulations issued by DEP. And in that situation, the borough doesn't have the ability to grant a waiver. What's being suggested here is that since there's a dual entity, two entities, the borough and DEP, reviewing essentially the same set of documentation, that they're suggesting that if DEP signs off on it, that perhaps the borough could just rely on that element as being acceptable. And this goes to the issue of the green infrastructure, basically issue.
Yeah.
I have one follow-up, but you go.
So can you, Bob, for the board's benefit, clearly the state has adopted green stormwater infrastructure, GISI regs, as a new, more restrictive standard preferred to deal with flood issues, to deal with stormwater mitigation. So can you walk everyone through why is a bioretention or other GSI better than perhaps this what's here and like, because obviously DEP DEP didn't ban this kind of stormwater infrastructure. They just said, if you don't do best management practices, if you don't do VMPs with GSI, you gotta come and ask permission to do this other one, right? So there was a rationale, right? Like, can you walk through that a little bit? Because we're talking about a part of town that floods a lot.
And before
And
you
I'm
do-
just trying to understand the
Well, I
why.
can tell you what the difference between the different types of BMPs, that's what the gentleman referred to as. What they do, what the underlying reason why the state did that, I mean, I can't speak to the underlying, I mean, the bioretention basin obviously has water quality features. That, you know, are obviously important in the processing of stormwater, or management of stormwater from runoff from the site. As Mr. Fucci's indicating, in this particular area, these particular basins are only taking water from roof and from grassland. They're not taking water from motor vehicle services. With one slight exception, I guess the Brown Street one technically is taking an existing developed urban area, which obviously has a, you know, water quality component to it. I guess that perhaps Mr. Fucci could respond to this. The reason you had to change from the bioretention basin to the extended detention basin is that because of the higher groundwater condition, you can't use bioretention basin on Brown Street. Is that
The
correct?
bioretention basin requires a larger separation between seasonal high water table on the bottom of the basin than a traditional extended detention basin does. And as I said, based upon the testing within the Brown Street Basin area, the bottom of the basin, if it were still bioretention, would have to be lifted so high that it would actually be above the low point of Brown Street, and therefore it would be absolutely useless to the borough.
You have a number of factors here that are kind of working against each other. Again, the plan that was presented to the board based on the testing the applicant was originally relying on from the LSRP, so that they could put in a bioretention basin, which is what it is. That's what was presented and approved with the condition that, oh, by the way, you really gotta go out and retest this in the wet season and verify that you actually have those conditions. When they did that, they verified that they didn't have those conditions. They had a higher groundwater condition, which, as Mr. Fucci just explained, if they were gonna keep a bioretention basin, would have to rise to such a level that it really wouldn't be effective in its intended purpose, which was to manage water coming off of Brown Street. Again, that's an existing developed part of the borough. It's not something they're creating as part of this, but it is part of their agreement, the redevelopers agreement for this particular development. So that's the situation you're in. To the extent that someone has the ability to, again, assuming the board is comfortable with it, has the ability, aesthetic issues, I'll put that on the side for a moment. If someone felt that the extended detention basin is appropriate given the various circumstances. The issue is that it's not compliant with the current stormwater regulations that require green infrastructure. So it's not one of the infrastructure they're indicating they need to put in to manage water come off of Brown Street has to be at a certain depth. The enhanced or the new groundwater conditions they just established indicate that they can't do that. They can't raise that basin up and keep it the same type of basin because it would be ineffective. Because again, you're managing water coming off an existing condition. And they've chosen to, possibly their only choice at this point, was to come in with a lower basin that but it's not green infrastructure. Again, I can't certify as part of this project that project is compliant with stormwater rules because it's not.
Because it requires a waiver.
It's not.
Well-
They're indicating that they have to go to DEP anyway. And I, quite honestly, something like this, I would defer, to the borough stormwater coordinator, which is your borough engineer. I just know I can't certify to the board that this is compliant because obviously it's not compliant. Whether getting a waiver from DEP to do this, whether that's enough of a basis for the borough to say we're gonna accept this, even though we're not granting the waiver. And again, you have it's this odd situation, a unique situation where you have two different entities who are in charge of reviewing the same set of data under the same set of regulations, somewhat independent of each other. You know, the fact that DEP says something's compliant, the borough still, the borough planning board can't just say, oh, DEP approved it, so ergo, we're just accepting DEP. You have to go through the motions and the whole process of evaluating it and deciding, you know, whether it comes to the conclusion whether it's compliant or not. And as indicated here, you can't determine it's compliant.
So once they got, let's say they get the waiver from DEP, that would then have to come back to you or the board engineer for a review and just maintain that it's consistent with what we have in our ordinance.
Yeah, that's gonna
what
go,
you're saying.
that's gonna go to the issue really of the borough's stormwater ordinance, which is why I said it really
Which is exactly the same as what the DEP
Well,
would.
yeah, but I think if the stormwater coordinator for any municipality, it has to ensure, assure that that everything is in compliance with the regulations. In this particular case, it's a bit of a, I don't call it gray area, but it's enough of a,
It's a chicken and the egg kind of situation.
yeah.
What's required of the DEP waiver, you have to provide them plans of the extended detention basin to them.
I'm sorry, he's talking about.
You have to-
The DEP application, waiver application process.
It's not a waiver application, it's a modification of an existing permit.
Would you have to provide like the extended detention basin?
I have to
them, or-
submit the current stormwater management report, and basically there's a gentleman named Gabe Mahan who runs the entire stormwater side
Okay,
for water quality. I've actually had a correspondence with Mr. Vogt about this issue because he is your stormwater coordinator. He mentioned Gabe as well. We've met with Gabe in the past, and I have no problem representing, I would go sit with him and explain why we already know this still meets, from our perspective, the water quality component requirements, even using extended detention, because we were not requiring the extended detention basins for any water quality treatment. They were only required for quantity control. But the perk of the rules is you have to get this waiver for it.
so like an emergency spillway for an extended detention basin is not required here, or?
No, the outlet structure is basically the
It's
same
all gonna be
exact
the same.
outlet structure. The difference is the bottom is lifted and I don't have. The question was asked about, you know, whether the vegetation or the, you know, what, does that really help in the water quality treatment? The bioretention system has several feet of organic material. It has a special blend of soil. And then underneath that a sand layer and a stone layer. And in our case, we also put in the stone layer an under drain to make sure that infiltration was not required. So I was able to get the landscape plan to load. This is actually the Route 12 basin shown right here. And what would happen is these plants that you see, the circles within the basin, could all get moved to the perimeter. So it will look very different from a bird's perspective. Anyone flying over this, looking down, you will not have a bunch of individual plant material in the bottom. You'd have a green bottom. But all the perimeter landscaping that you see on here would be enhanced because all these trees could be moved to infill. Like you can see against the extension of Central Station, some street trees and some shrubbery. Some of the smaller trees can infill between the street trees and make sure that the view from the street, walking on the sidewalk, looking in, you can't see what's behind there, or you see just green behind through the leaves. Same thing along Route 12.
Can you pull up the Brown Street, because I'm concerned about, like, this is by a park.
Okay, that's gonna be one page up.
Does the Brown Street Basin movement require amended DEP approval or not?
Brown Street Basin is the same situation.
How much did you raise the floor basin? You said you had to lift it, how much higher is it than?
Well, it makes it.
I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a couple of
Right.
additional.
Does it even, does it retain the right? You've lost quite a volume there.
No,
No, there's the top one up too.
You're saying that you can't, because of where the water is, the whole, if you kept the bio, it would have to go like
I
this.
understand why you
But
lifted it up.
the extended release doesn't have to do the same. The space between the bottom of an extended release can be closer to the high water than the bio is.
Right, but he also testified that he's raising the base up by 2 feet, which is quite a large reduction in volume. Would it? No?
I think, which you said the sides are gonna be equally as high, so the overall volume would be the same.
We still have ample volume to make sure that we meet all the reduction requirements. So that was, the quantity controls are not an issue or concern. Just trying to find it, Mr. Tronco's plans where he has a wall above that base. There it is, okay. So this is the enlargement of the Brown Street Basin. Just had it
Scroll up.
right there.
Yeah, but online, yeah, it's.
Well, on my screen.
And these are
it's-
part
there it
of
is.
the-
Okay.
It's a-
That's a.
There you go.
right?
So what you have is the park and there is the retaining wall, that's this dark line that drops down into the basin. Currently, there's a discrepancy that Mr. Clerical noted is being rectified. We show a plan with a fence on top of that wall for protection and safety.
Right.
The landscaping plans show a curvy fence around the improvements to the park. And they do not show our fence, they will, we're gonna have two fences, so that anyone who's walking on the sidewalk from Brown into the project. If they, don't go into the park, but they just walk back here onto the grass area, and we don't want them falling off a wall that's a couple feet high. So,
But
what you're gonna have,
just move the one fence.
you're gonna have the plantings that were already part of the park still there. And then the plantings that we had in the basin that would basically provide screening of the wall with these little shrubs. Or just additional green from the bird's eye perspective, they can be pushed to either the top, the bottom, wherever you'd like. We have residential development, a house directly to the north and a house to the south. You have a path that's already been requested by the borough, a sidewalk going from Brown Street here back into the extension of Central Station. And to the extent that you want us to take some of the plant material and place it on the west side of the base, that's gonna screen the backyards or back patios of our proposed townhouses from the basin.
What about the right side, though? That's the part where you're at the park, you're gonna see right into it, right?
Oh, well, what happens is this wall that's right here is anywhere from 1 to 3 feet high at the top end, and it gets as high as 5 feet right here and goes back down to 3 and 1 because of the slope of the ground into the basin. So you have a wall, and the concern would either be protecting the view of the wall from the basin and the sidewalk behind the homes of the development. On the flip side, the view would be, okay, any plantings here would only screen looking over the grass and the plantings surround the basin. But there's already a fence proposed around the park. That is basically a security fence as well as a decorative fence to, contain the improvements within the park.
But anyone in the park's gonna be able to look over and see that open retention basin, correct? Even with a fence? Any adult would definitely be able to see it, right?
I'm not certain whether or not the fence that is proposed by Mr. Tronco on the landscaping plans is open or closed. But the fence proposed on top of the wall is a 42-inch high solid white PVC fence. So you would have a solid fence protecting the view into the project from anyone walking on Brown Street, looking through the park, or anyone within the park, looking out to the back of the park. Now, 42 inches is basically the height of this Diaz here, so someone standing up can see over it. But the screening that you're blocking is viewing the green space and the vegetation behind it. If it's appropriate to screen the view of the green space from people in the park, then these small shrubs that are on the bottom side here that will eventually grow can be moved to the top side and fill in the gap between the retaining wall and the fence so that there's a visual screen of green against the white fence.
This discussion of having to discuss these big two changes to these two basins was precisely the discussion we didn't want to be having, because and precisely the reason why we were very nervous to not allow the application to go forward without having the soil testing done before we gave approval, because I seem to have discussion where we said, what happens if it changes and you're gonna have to come back to us with a new design and a new site plan, which is exactly where we are. Eight months
What probably
later.
would have happened was we probably just would have eliminated that basin, doesn't do us anything.
Part of the RDA.
Yeah.
It is the. Listen, if I can just make a couple of points of clarification, because a couple of things went around, you know, Mr. Pucci, you were asked if this was a substantial change with respect to the DEP in the requirement for a waiver. Do you believe that that means it's a substantial change to the site plan overall?
I look at it as, I do drainage for a living, I do site plans for a living. And to me, this is a tweak. It's not substantial. I envisioned the question raised at the prior hearing of a significant change, meaning, okay, this is not gonna fly. I have to move all the units around. The concept plan is not gonna work anymore. We have to reopen the redevelopment hearings and change the redevelopment plan because the concept plan is not viable. This is nothing at all like that. This is simply the same layout, the same units. I lifted a couple of basins, a couple of inches, and the two basins on the right side of Central Station that were once bio are now EDs, extended detentions. I didn't see that as a big change, because to me, a basin is a basin.
But with all due respect, you wouldn't have to go back to the D.
We know we're not, that was.
So, if it wasn't that substantial a change, you wouldn't have to go back, and
Any change.
we also
whatsoever
lost,
back.
we also lost the green infrastructure aspect, right? For two basins.
It's, you know, this is, my concern is how deep we're getting into this tonight. And we had testimony from Brown Street residents about concerns with their kids, about it being open, you know. I just. I mean, I get what you're saying, that to you it's not substantial because you don't have to move any buildings. I totally get that. But, you know, from where we're sitting, you know, there's aesthetic aspects for both of these basins. That are important to the community for different reasons. The drive-by community or walking community versus people with the kids community. So, with the playground.
Mayor, you have much more to consider than just a simple question. I was merely pointing out the legalities, which I think Ms. Kaczynski stated early in the process. Would you have voted differently had this been the basin that we originally presented? And I think that's the essence of the question when we're considering what authority this board has to act without a new applicant or amended application.
Well, there's also the fact of would we have voted differently if we knew you weren't gonna follow the resolution as written, like, because, and what we put in there, which you've apologized for not following. Would we have voted differently if Mr. Clerico wasn't gonna be present for this?
You know,
testing?
we're doing this,
Mayor,
I'm doing this on a.
Sorry, did I, no, but it's quite all right, I still think that's got point that needs to be.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, so, I just want to chime in from a compliance perspective, and there are a couple pieces of redevelopment plan that are a couple pieces of the redevelopment plan that are relevant to this. There are a few places in the redevelopment plan that require substantial consistency with the concept plans that were attached to the redevelopment plan. One item is in the section stating, site design and bulk regulations. Item 3, site layout and design shall be substantially consistent with the concept plan provided in Exhibit A unless otherwise provided therein. And that includes several items such as the structures along Church Street, et cetera, items that are not relevant, but it also states stormwater basin locations, including the bioretention basins located throughout the residential development, the bioretention basin proximate to Brown Street, and the stormwater retention basin located along Route 12. Now, I know we dealt with the retention basin aspect of the basin located along Route 12. It's no longer about the fountain, instead it's a bioretention basin, but so there's that item. Additionally, there's language specific to the Brown Street area. This is park and bioretention basin along Brown Street on page 14. And it states the layout and design of the park and bioretention area along Brown Street shall be substantially consistent with the park and bioretention area concept plan provided in Exhibit C unless otherwise provided. And that includes, but is not limited to, the following: location and size of the play area and seating areas, fencing around the play area, bicycle parking, but then plant design. And I think this is particularly relevant because if you look at the concept plan included within the redevelopment plan. I can turn my screen around, but what you'll see is the play area as shown basically on the landscape plan that's shown on the screen. But also behind it is very clearly a bioretention basin with a dozen or so trees and a couple dozen shrubs within the basin itself. And so regardless of stormwater management compliance, regardless of aesthetic concerns, I think that this is also a compliance issue about relief that or an aspect of the site plan that is not consistent with the development plan based on the change that's being discussed.
This is, my concern is that we're doing this on the fly. This had testimony from the public about concerns. I know there was testimony back saying your kids can't, there's gonna be shrubs there's gonna be trees, you don't have to worry about them drowning or anything. And, we're doing this without public notice, we're doing this, without the people on Brown Street hearing any of this, and it's a concern of mine that we're doing this on the fly, and we're asking us to just let the DP wave the magic wand and say, yeah, it's okay to do this, and I'm not comfortable with that, I'm really not. When we had families here, regarding this detention, he said, I'm not saying you would or wouldn't have approved it, but I don't think it's appropriate for us to just agree to something when, we had the public here for this. There's an element that was important to you. It was heavily reviewed by the Environmental Commission,
Yeah, they have that chance.
so I'm just like.
Mayor, could I just say a couple things on that statement? I had the meetings with the Brown Street people when we were coming together with this whole thing, when we were designing the park. What they cared about was their backyards flooding and having a park on their street. We are spending close to $1 million on a basin to reduce the flooding. We've got inlets from everybody's backyard, so when they flood, it goes into the same system. We're spending tons of money on their main two things, a park and lessening flooding in their backyards. That hasn't changed. None of that's changed. That was their concern. That there's not gonna be plants in the middle of the basin. We'll put some more around the perimeter if that helps. We'll put some along the back of the park if that helps. But this is for the town we're doing this, for the neighbors.
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm disagreeing about is the process. And we are talking about this on the fly. That was all part of a public hearing when it was all discussed. And now you're asking us to agree to changes without proper public notification. That's my issue. I'm not saying good or bad, I'd vote for this or I wouldn't vote for it. I'm just saying I don't feel good about this process.
Well, this is a massive project, and when you do massive projects and then you get from the site plans to the construction plans, there's things that need to be tweaked. There's nothing unusual
Okay,
about that.
well-
That's all these are, is tweaks.
There's an adage, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. Maybe not.
We're not
You
asking for forgiveness.
you have
We're
right.
telling you, because of the groundwater table, we had to modify these two basins. That's all.
Disagree with what you.
Holding the same
you
amount
agreed
of
to
water.
do. What I disagree with is I don't feel comfortable about this process.
Mayor, I do understand, and even with
Good, please
respect
tell
to,
me.
even with respect to the redevelopment agreement, the word substantial appears over and over. That's the standard under the land use law. That's the standard that you can evaluate this application from. And when evaluating that standard is, would you have voted differently had you been presented with this at the time? And given there is no alternative. That's what I really don't get. What would you have me do? I don't know what we can do. This is the only basin that the DEP will allow here. We have no alternative. I would love to give you what we promised. I cannot.
I've been doing this a long time. And when things show up in a municipality, I always have the comfort of saying, there was a public hearing, nobody came. You could have come and it happened. I don't have that comfort right now. That's the problem. When this is built, if we just say, okay, go do it, then I'm gonna have a half a dozen homeowners that were here at the public hearing saying, you changed it, when did that happen?
It is a decision you have to make. I'm just pointing out that I think that you can make it in
Yes, I
favor of
realize
my
that.
position should you choose to do so. You have many.
We, the important part here, to the mayor's point also is there's a procedure we have to go through and there's a resolution in place which states certain things which you didn't follow. And that we have to consider, whether the changes that if you weren't going to follow that resolution, would be voted differently if we know what we know now. And that's one of the decisions we have to make, right? We do also have to consider several other things, unless if people feel strongly enough about this and that we need to trigger the second part of what you were saying, is it better to trigger that now or talk about the other three things at the same time?
I mean, we certainly can let the board hear what some of the proposals and changes are so that you've heard it. You certainly have the ability to say that you don't feel comfortable changing the language of the conditions, and possibly you would have voted differently. One of the things we did have in there in a couple places is that if there was a change, that the applicant shall return to the board for a finding as to whether amended site plan approval is required, so that's kind of what we're doing here. I do think in the interest of moving it along, the more information you have going
Right.
into that process, the better.
Yeah.
And the more input they have, the better. But if ultimately, you feel more comfortable going through the process again based upon the extent of the changes, that obviously is within your purview to do.
One thing in terms of the process and the timing, can I ask a question? The tests were done April 16th, April 28th, is that correct?
No, the tests were done before April 1st, I believe. but the
Oh, well, maybe
report
the
was
tests were
issued-
given to those. And then Mr. Clerico's letter responding to your change of design is July. Was that period, I'm just trying to work out why we didn't hear about this before July.
Well,
Because we were in the process of doing compliance review based on the initial submission
Okay.
they had made.
Yeah.
Which was still based on the old testing, that's when they basically called us to say, let's stop the review because we have an issue.
Okay.
So they came in with basically a revision to this is compliance plan 1A. I mean, we were reviewing compliance plan 1, this is compliance plan, 1A, modified.
Okay, thank you.
Which is, we held off issuing the report. When the revised plans came in, we incorporated that into the report, so we're reporting on the plan that's actually being presented to them. Because they basically said, stop reviewing that plan because it's gonna change.
Does anybody else have any questions about this particular issue before we ask them to go on to the issue?
I'm just trying to run through the scenario. So if you get approval with the DEP and there's no change to the footprint, then we're really looking at an aesthetic change to is there any potential chance that the footprint would have to change?
no, because the design, as I said, we meet all the stormwater requirements of quantity, quality, and ground.
I got you. Okay, so just
And
good clarification. So really it's about the aesthetic at this point. So like, I guess the options are if they
Resolution compliance.
right, so if you put a condition that they have to get approval and then there's gotta be like, what would an amended site plan look like? Would it just be a public hearing or a review with Brown Street residents to say, here's the change of the aesthetics, do you agree, or do you do a formal hearing?
It would be an amended site plan
But
that
it
would
would be
address
abbreviated.
these.
Particular issue.
It's abbreviated to the extent that they're only going to be focusing on changes.
The changes of base, the
The
aesthetics.
changes proposed by the amended site plan, which, I would say should incorporate the landscaping that's now no longer going to be on the
Right,
other
right,
side of the fence. So anything that they're basically asking to change, and that's kind of why we started this to begin with. If there's gonna be one issue that you guys are going to want and feel more comfortable having a new hearing and reviewing as the amended site plan, then we might as well just put everything together because that's the cleanest way to do it. So it's.
So in terms of process, would you wait until the DEP approval before to ensure that there's no, I mean, obviously, I don't think there's gonna be any changes to quality and quantity of the water is not changing, but like if they did change, if they did, DEP actually said we need to increase,
Well, I think that's
And then
that's their choice also.
True.
okay.
The fact is that, but there are 5 issues that were outlined here,
Yeah.
and so
well,
if there was a public we're not there yet, but if there was a determination that we needed to have a public hearing and it was noticed in the public hearing. And they could be working on other things while waiting on the DEP stuff, like that's different than, that's different, and I think that part of this has to do with the Stangle detour, which I think is a pressing time
Mhm.
issue. And I think that that's something that we gotta talk about, because yeah, we know Trenton's gonna take what it's gonna do, but like, this is something that's a little more in control of what's.
No, understood. We'll try and move to it. This was an important conversation, so. The last issue which Mr. Pucci was addressing is there are a series of conditions in the resolution that rely on outside agency approvals. They don't have to do with plan changes themselves, so our concern was to be able to get the plan signed so we can move forward with the process, understanding that these conditions all need to be satisfied before we will open. They're highlighted in the report, and again, I don't think, if you want to go through all of them, but they're all. And again, in my experience, it's pretty standard that they trail behind.
I mean, the approvals they're talking about are ones that are higher than ours. So we can never require an applicant to wait until they get one of those approvals
Mhm.
before we render our determination.
Right.
We always have to condition our approval on it. Where we put the satisfaction of that condition in the process of construction is also up to the board. And a risk of the applicant. So, if the board is comfortable saying, well, okay, you have to satisfy that before building permit. And in some unquestionable circumstance or some strange other universe, they have to make a major change to something because of the fact that they've waited until that point. Well, again, that's on them. They're definitely taking a risk by saying, they would like to wait until that point. You have the ability to do that. But if there's a site plan change that's necessitated because the outside agency approval requires such a change, well, then they're gonna be back here. So it's that dance.
I do, and Mr. Pucci, do you anticipate any plan changes, much as we had that prior discussion about the basics? The remaining outstanding
No,
outside.
the outside agencies that are yet to be done are for pro forma per se. I don't anticipate the county having any comments at all because,
Maybe for the record, just list what those
I was
agencies
just
are.
gonna say that, yeah.
In Mr. Clarko's letter, he lists NJDEP for letter of interpretation, County Planning Board, Soil Conservation District, NJDOT for access at Route 12. And then kind of folded in kind of sideways is input from the NJDOT as appropriate for warning devices and or signage at the railroad crossing. We already have the soil erosion permit and the 5G3 permit. They were required before any site disturbance could have been undertaken, such as the demolition. So that plan with the permit is done. County Planning Board, as I said, there's no county road involved, so I don't anticipate anything there.
So that risk is low.
Right. NJDOT, I believe the traffic engineer will be discussing the detour plan with you shortly, so I would feel more comfortable if he explains my paraphrasing of it shouldn't be a problem at all. Because the use that we're dealing with here is much less dense than the prior use, so the amount of trip generation from this use is significantly lower, and therefore it's not a major change requiring massive, I think there's a planning review and other terminology, terms of art in the traffic world that I don't feel comfortable guessing at. And NJDEP, we know we're going back to them for the flood hazard amendment. And the letter of interpretation is ongoing. We have a wetlands consultant that's been on site. Our office has done the locations, they're preparing the paperwork, so we could submit that. So that is something we're undertaking right now.
So to what the board can do, since that really isn't a site plan amendment issue, at least at this point, you could amend the condition to say that those particular outside agency approvals would need to be satisfied, not as a condition of signing the site plan, but as a condition prior to pulling that very first building.
Agreed, point of clarification, I don't think there is any time frame in the conditions now, it
It's
just
not,
doesn't have to be
correct.
satisfied, it doesn't say that.
Yeah, and usually unless we'll say building permit or some other point, then it's just as a condition of resolution compliance, which would
I
dictate.
appreciate that, and I would like to treat that separately, and Mr. Pucci, just for the record, because I said it. But in your opinion, is this pretty typical that outside agency approvals will trail
So I
alongside?
go in every municipality,
Does that include the DCA approval on the HOA? Cause
Yeah, no, it's going.
That was
yeah,
the next thing I was gonna say, I think
pre-construction
that's,
seems kind of early on that, but.
yeah, so we could certainly amend that as well,
That should be CO. First CO.
to say,
Should be CO.
yeah, we could do a CO on that one.
Cause it's.
Yeah, now just understanding that,
TCO or CO?
it's CO, yeah.
Would you be selling?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you be selling units prior to?
I wouldn't want to commit them not to, because if
So
it's
that
managed,
we only
they may
want
not moderate
it
them, you know?
before the real estate office is open, because people need to know and see the documents they're buying into.
Oh, no, you can't list a property for sale without having a
Right.
DCA.
So,
So they couldn't advertise, they could sell.
No, that's not true, that's not true. You can take non-binding reservations. You can
Again,
advertise, you can sell, you can only sign a non-binding reservation.
George, I think we still have to have a bastard deed in order to sell.
No, but DCA is gonna approve it.
No, I know.
We don't need to go there.
why don't we just say before the real estate office is open or something like that?
Well, since we're coming back anyway, we've got some time to work on that condition, this from when we're hearing here right now, but those two would not be amendments to the site plan, those are ones that we could just address by way of amendment to the condition
And then-
language itself.
And I would,
Now we're just transferring the risk to that, basically,
Yeah, and on these two, I think it's very minimal.
Yeah.
Correct.
right,
I'd like to really treat Stangle Road the same way, so I'll bring up our traffic consultant next, because that's just,
yeah, this is the,
Yeah.
affordable housing land.
which is, do you have a preference, would you like to?
Which is easier.
I
Jay's like a chunk of it, I know, yeah,
Trying to get you on.
let's do Sandal, those stuff,
Yeah.
hopefully we got some pictures to look at. More visual.
Good evening,
Hello,
I'm Gary Dean, DEAN, professional address is 181 West High Street in Somerville.
okay, we need to swear.
Yeah, I just for the testimony about to give this board the truth, the whole truth, nothing but.
Yes, I do.
Mr. Dean, you're a licensed traffic engineer?
Professional engineer with a specialty in traffic engineering, municipal consultant for traffic matters. I've appeared before this board over the past 35 years or so on numerous occasions. I think my most recent appearance was for the Union Hotel redevelopment.
I'd ask you to accept those qualifications.
Anybody have any concerns,
Thank you very much. So just to set the table for where we are, and I am paraphrasing, but the resolution provided that in doing the construction along Stangle Road, not trying to avoid any questions you may have, but that when traffic needs to be diverted, we could provide a reasonable detail plan. Have you worked on and developed that plan, and did you do so in consultation with boroughs?
Yes, that we prepared two detour plans, principally because Main Street, as you know, is currently under a detour. So for this applicant to begin their work and close Stangle, we would initially use the same detour you currently have in place now for Main Street, which takes traffic around the Route 12 and Main Street Circle, takes it up Brown Road to Church, and then left, and then up to Central, and then up to Mine. Once Main Street is reopened, then that detour would be shifted to take advantage of Main Street and keep traffic off of Brown Street. And we have prepared two detour plans. They have been provided to Mr. Troutman for his review. And they provide what you see today, orange signs with detour where needed. We have a supplemental plaque that says Stangle Road, so that people understand that's the nature of the detour. And we have one for both the east and westbound directions on Route 12. And really, that's it. I mean, it's like I said, it's the same detour I followed tonight to come in here up and around Brown, etc. So nothing unusual. It would be typical highway orange signs. I know the applicant has been in consultation with your Director of Public Works. Many of the signs have already been ordered and are ready to be implemented. as soon as we're through this process.
And all truck turnings and, this would be a suitable route for all manner of vehicles, safety vehicles included.
Again, it's being used today. I have to believe, however it was sanctioned, whether it's through this planning board or the governing body, again, you can't get up Main Street, so it's the same detour. So to answer your question, yes.
Thank you. I have.
So I have two questions. One is, Black River and Western Rail, they're currently running like wine trains and ball trains. Does this affect their ability to get into the property and park?
It does not. That
Okay.
portion of the Stengel Road would still be open. Those Line Express tours, what have you, are August 23rd and 24th and September 6th and 7th. And that the applicant has provided and the railroad has signed a licensing agreement with proper insurance to use the applicant's property for parking.
So the Route 12 entrance would be the only entrance people could go through Stangle, right? I mean, that's okay, that's just,
Correct.
okay, and that's one question. My second question is, the tractor trailers, the deliveries down Stangle Road,
Correct.
how do they get?
I don't know that there are any, but if there were,
I've seen pictures of them.
what we have is the use of, and I want to get the right property. It's block 35, lot 21, and block 35, lot 32, which is where Lone Eagle is today. There is, I'll call it a corridor between those two buildings, the building to the north on lot 21 and 32, excuse me. It's essentially the easterly extension of Reasoner Lane. That's all private property. It's not a public street, but those vehicles are presumably going to those buildings, and they'll just circulate clockwise around those buildings.
So like that.
Right,
using
it's trying to
Go
go
down.
They can't go down Reasoner Lane.
They can't go down Reasoner Lane. Reasoner Lane is private, but they can use the parking lot, which is the east side. Michael, do we have this survey from Golden Mountain?
Yes.
Yeah.
Reasoner Lane, a portion of Reasoner Lane actually appears to be parked
Yes.
at the end.
They'll just
You're saying
circulate.
they would go in there and keep turning back?
No,
No.
behind the building where the carpentry shop,
Yes.
behind there and out.
They're
He's given us
certainly-
permission to do that. That's how they make their turn. They turn in between the brewery, the two brewery buildings, and then turn right, past the back of the carpentry shop and right back out to Stangle.
They're supposed to be doing it anyway, in that on the approved site plan for those
That's
buildings,
their loading route.
and that is their loading. And there's a 12-foot by 35-foot loading zone already on the approved site plans for that, so, yes, we've considered that. That's all I have, unless there are any questions.
Well, I think this is an appropriate time for Jay to, what can you do?
I think that's it.
Is that as far as it goes?
Well,
So I was contacted about this issue under condition 28 about providing a reasonable construction necessitated detour. And what Mr. Dean explained in terms of the general routing of the detour is accurate. I did prepare a memo for the board to outline some of the concerns which have already been discussed by the mayor and others. Mr. Dean has prepared an official detour plan by an engineer. And my second item was the truck turnaround area. I was not aware that existing tractor trailers do that pattern today. I guess I would just request that a truck turning plan be provided to demonstrate that there is adequate circulation through there with a tractor trailer. Comment 3 was that once South Main Street becomes passable, that the detour be switched to South Main Street and get the traffic off of Brown Street. I also requested a pre-construction meeting with borough officials prior to implementing the detour, including the police chief, the fire marshal, the public works director, my office, and any other borough officials that would be impacted by this. And then in item 5, I discussed consulting with the operator of Lone Eagle Brewing to make sure his business is not negatively affected by the closure. And that goes to, I do have some technical comments on the actual detour plan, which could be worked out with Mr. Dean. But the main thing that's important is that at the north end of Stangl, I think motorists need to be notified that all the businesses are open. And it's for local traffic only, you can't get through. But that it doesn't mean Stangl's closed to the north end. You know, all the businesses are open all the way through.
Sending tractor trailers down Brown Street, are we?
No.
We're not allowed to do that, right? In and out, it's all weight restricted.
Yeah.
But can I just ask, so we can get this on the record, which, in these detours, which part of Stangle through to from 9 to 12 will be completely inaccessible? How much of it? Well,
It's basically, the road will be closed right at the boundary of Lone Eagle Brewing,
okay,
so that you can't get past Lone Eagle. You're basically stopped at those parking spots where they want to put the chairs
right,
in front of Lone Eagle.
and to where?
And then on the other end, it would be just south of where Church Street is currently crosses the railroad tracks. I would have to scale.
So so beyond Black River, they can't get to it all.
Yes, that's okay.
They would have Black River.
Users 12 in and out.
And
That's on those customers.
and what is the time, do we have a schedule for when these closures are need
Yeah,
to happen?
That was.
How long are they for? Because I'm looking at the word when I think that's saying reasonable construction detail. So reasonable to the developer is different reasonable to the public.
I think Jay had in his. memo.
Yeah, item 6 was, it shall last no longer than 8 calendar weeks.
8 calendar weeks.
So where Church makes the bend,
Mhm.
comes across into the parking lot.
I think we're showing.
So you've got it there.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
it's on the screen.
thank you.
And where my hand is,
Yeah.
if you can see where my hand is
Yeah.
Lone Eagle.
Yeah.
So the closure begins just southeast of Lone Eagle. And then extends around the back-to-back curve on the applicant's frontages. And then extends to where the large parking lot is, which is split in half, if I understand correctly. The southern half
Mm.
is available to, what's the name of the George?
Black River,
No,
the
what's the building called?
old restaurant,
No,
platform one.
where, not Sherman, who's?
Oh, it was the old Timberland building.
Thanks.
No,
The feed mill.
Oh, the female, the female.
They use that parking lot northwest of their building, so that's why the road closure is essentially the middle section. I'll zoom out, but you'll see from south to north, it's just the middle. It's the large intestine.
The piece within the applicant's property.
The road's all good, the esophagus, the stomach, and I won't describe the southern section, so it's really just the middle.
It's a strange result.
So I'm guessing that if any tractor trailers that want to go to Stangle inadvertently come in from Route 12, we should be able to use the parking lot.
Right.
As long as the parking lot's not full,
And the conditions of the parking.
and the conditions of the parking lot, will the tractor trailer grind out.
So let me ask this question then, for deliveries to businesses along Stangle north of the detour, where they obviously have to access Stangle off of Mine Street. Right, I know that there is the Brown Street current detour that uses Central Station, but for truck traffic, because of the turns and stuff there, is there any way for us to ensure that trucks who are coming in could utilize, 12 to the Divorce Circle to Mine Street rather than go through Brown Street. Like I'm worried about the three-way stop at Central Station and Mine Street.
Yeah, that is.
That's the stop
Street.
like to make a turn to come, if they're coming up Central North, they're gonna make a left onto Mine and then another quick left to come down Stangle. I'm concerned about that maneuver as opposed to having them come through the divorce circles and then go
Yeah.
on Mine Street. Does that make sense, Rick?
Yes, it does.
At each road.
But what are they doing today?
Yeah, they're coming up.
They're coming off 12 and going straight up Stangle.
Yeah,
Which
we
is
don't
a-
make
No,
that
no,
turn.
but I mean, the trucks that would be on Main Street are being diverted to Brown and the detour.
They're not,
No,
they're weight restricted, so they're going on a
They're
31.
going on 31, they should
And they're
be on
coming down
that straight.
Stangle.
So
We would do the
another,
same.
I have another question for both traffic people, and as notwithstanding the need to work out the oh my god, what's the word for it? The detour. So this detour is happening for a specific reason, for 8 weeks, right? What's happening with build a new part of road, is that correct?
The road has to be reconstructed above a certain flood elevation,
Right.
so it has to be done. The sooner we
We're
can.
not denying it has to be done. What I'm asking, the question I'm gonna ask is, as well as thinking about all the cars need to detour for various reasons, how much construction traffic is coming and what is the traffic plan for the construction traffic coming to do this work? We have that in place? Yeah, related to this, because I'm, we're gonna have 8 weeks of, we all know what Main Street looks like, with Spring Street. And they're digging and they're pulling stuff and all the soil goes, all of the roads, all the businesses on Stangle. What is the road gonna look like for them during construction? What is your plan? Are we cleaning the road? Are we cleaning the trucks when they come on?
Oh, we absolutely have SWIP requirements, and that's gonna be on the contractor. Our equipment is already there. They,
I
think
understand.
they've already been doing it, so.
No, I want to have a question,
I think it's a reasonable question. Yes.
because that is the biggest thing that affects people, when even if you work out the detour. Construction debris coming from that location quite, and this is quite close to businesses. Are they come, and all the trucks to bring everything coming along, is that the route, they're gonna come the same route as trucks?
No, they'll come up Stangle. And enter the
All
work zone.
construction traffic is going, for that road is gonna come through Stangle.
So we do have condition 50 that requires a pre-con meeting.
Right.
And incorporates a number of different things. Schedule of ongoing construction, how to protect residents. Again, they would have to incorporate cleaning and debris removal and all that as well. So that certainly, we could make sure that it covers.
And I'm particularly sensitive, because it's quite, it's a big business area now, it's a very public, we had a great event there at the weekend. And I can't imagine having that event there, right, but with construction debris all over it, right?
We're gonna run a name the mountain contest, Tracy.
And I do believe that.
Karen, to your point, that is a fully developed retail area,
Right,
and I do worry as we're coming to holidays and when this starts, like, that's really a big impact. on
I'm
businesses.
concerned we need to get the business development community involved in that pre-con meeting. Even though we didn't have that in that.
Here's the challenge, if I could.
I nearly said bid, I'm sorry, I'm going back to years.
The longer we wait, the more it's gonna push into the fall season and schools resume, et cetera. So ideally, I know the applicant would love to start this tomorrow.
Right, and the
I
other,
mean,
we would,
If we can get the pre-con by
But-
Monday of next week, that's the objective, because otherwise it has a greater impact on the public as schools resume and they start
we
coming back.
want to have had the meeting and start the work Monday. Have the public been notified that the detours are happening yet?
They have been noticed. Everybody who was affected by the
All the
detour.
merchants got the schedule and got the notice.
Okay.
Just to clarify, so the trucks coming to make deliveries on Stangle, we're going to the circle on 12 and then trying to negotiate that Mine Street. Stangle.
Yeah.
Church.
Well, I mean, that's what I was suggesting. I don't know if Jay's got a better solution, but my concern is that we just want to make sure that deliveries to the Stangle district businesses are not trying to also come up Brown Street where it's a narrow road as opposed to using.
But we also wanna make sure there's no parking on that Mine Street so that they can make that turn from Mine to
If they're
Stanley, if they're coming off, if they're coming off the coast.
That was
I
sharp
try to
left,
keep to
and there's the handicap
Yeah,
parking in
that's-
front of 100
yeah.
Palm.
And then just make sure the signage is right.
Oh.
Well, it's three, it's really, I don't think there's parking there now. What's in front of that?
No, there's not parking on that side.
From church.
No, not
No, on
church,
mine,
not
in
church.
front of 100 Palm, there
Yeah.
is.
On the north side of the street.
Where the three-way intersection was just put in.
Yes.
It's a bit of a-
There's a couple spots there, that's right.
And it's probably gonna be impacted by the swing of the truck. Unless they come in from Maine.
Well, the
Did we
truck,
delay
the
it?
truck comes in now off of mine. So,
Okay.
so getting a truck from mine to Stangle happens now.
Okay,
Is that
Right,
coming
they're
from
usually
Maine?
coming-
That's coming
which
from
way are they
Maine,
coming?
right? Are they coming from,
Well, I saw the truck when it was in there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it came and made a left from mine or a
it's
right
not
from
easier to
mine.
try and make that turn from, coming from Maine and make that
Correct.
swing than trying to swing
Oh, right.
coming from 12.
We don't have to engineer this on.
No, we don't
spot,
have,
but
so I
like,
think we're good.
I think that
I just,
the businesses that are on Stangle. None of them are using huge trucks, right? I mean,
Conduits and
They're-
going,
they're using a 50-foot, 3-foot truck.
well, they're used, I don't know about 50 foot, but they're using.
check.
Mr. King, maybe you could tell us if he gets tractor trailer deliveries.
We do full-size tractor trailer.
Oh, you get both sides. Well, then that's that question.
So, I mean, we're just concerned about the, the impact on. If the routing is off of mine, if the routing for truck traffic is off of mine, whether coming off Main West to make a left, or if it's Divorce Circle, then mine east to come make the right turn onto Stangle, we just wanna
It might
have
impact
a
some,
plan for that.
right, it might just impact some parking in front of mine.
So I believe that these are deliveries that are occurring now. So these trucks,
Oh, okay.
these delivery people know what's the best way to approach and turn into Stangle, and I believe they are coming from Maine, although I guess that would be maybe down Park
Yeah.
to get there. I don't know.
Park and wait
I
restricted.
don't know, I just,
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm.
It is fine with,
But we just wanna maintain what's happening now. In terms of these deliveries and make sure they can still happen with the roads closed, cause I'm sure once they're done, if they're coming in from mine. They're used to just continuing out 12.
so would there just be a truck detour sign versus car detour? Obviously, there's no thoroughfare.
we'd have to sign that detour with by the back of the,
Or
Just comes out with signage, that's all.
or signage, or the business owners should just instruct their.
I think it's a lot of it.
It's all good. It's not, we're not.
That would be a meeting.
Now, in terms of the pre-construction issue meeting we mentioned, our condition here is just a general, that something must happen before. Do we have a schedule for those and who's involved in
Yeah,
those?
it's all.
Who's doing the pre-construction meetings from the borough? Who goes?
Mike Campion, our
Board
engineer,
professionals, borough engineer, borough construction official as necessary.
I get invited sometimes to go. Sometimes I don't know.
You have a lot of meetings, but do we have if we had one specifically a date or do we?
There's-
I don't think there's
no,
been
There's
any.
no specific date except for this.
There's not.
I'm concerned with the blowback we've had from Main Street and concerns and the outreach and stuff, it's got much better. The
Well, that's-
concerns we've had.
Yeah, I
Can we
mean,
follow that same?
well, that is just letting, Sergeant McNally to put out, an alert. And then they also put up the orange sign that like alerts if there's gonna be a detour or road closed. So all that stuff, I know that the chief likes to have that sign up for a couple of days before there's a big change. So if they know that the spring-con meeting is gonna be Tuesday, the chief would probably wanna get something up by Friday, probably, and.
So-
I know, it's only because I know we had, she wasn't able to be today because it wasn't a public hearing. But, from one of the business owners that was extremely concerned.
Yeah, she wrote.
Because and this is why I wanted to get the FCP, I got the acronym right now, the FCP involved in this process, because there are events, and I don't know what they all are, and I don't know what the impact is. Dates, I only just learned that you want to start Monday, and it's 8 weeks. The date, the date's been worked out with the events that are happening there. And have they
Well,
been involved?
I think the events have been mostly moved to Main Street at this point.
Yeah, they-
So, I mean, her concern was that, you know, part of her concern was that she heard the road was gonna get closed, and then one day there were barricades, and then the next day there were no barricades, and the road was gonna closed, and she was gonna have some kind of festival, and she couldn't do it, because she was angry, very angry.
So Jay, with the testimony given tonight about the ability that the applicant has said that they've got the ability to use the rear of the building to the north of the brewery building to make that turn, does that alleviate your concern that you would put in the review letter of the truck being able to swing back around?
Yeah, we would just need to verify that.
The tractor
Make
trailer,
it
you know,
come
should
back,
make that turn.
And then signage presumably to make sure that trucks don't continue down Reasonor and do take the right before they hit the rest of Reasonor, because officially it's part of Reasonor, right, and then it becomes
Yeah.
parking lot.
The, what's half parking lot was part of the project to build that building.
Yeah,
Be careful here, to build that building, that had. That piece of Reasoner was paved as part of that project, acknowledging it was a private road.
Right, and they do have, right now, they do have signage. If you try to go beyond the back of that building where the truck's supposed to turn right, there's a big do not enter sign and not.
And we started if they do, because they can't go anywhere on that road.
yeah, nobody, I don't wanna know to get stuck in somebody's
Well,
backyard.
tractor trailer.
Oh,
real
okay.
scary.
So,
Yeah.
just to back up a little bit, just fill in a couple of the blanks, you know. We did have the meeting with the borough's professional walk the site. That's when we put out the notice, that's when we discussed
Which professional?
the schedule, Campion. We actually considered that the pre-con meeting, I mean, we defer to whatever this board feels is appropriate, but that's why we sent out the notice. There's no description as to what a pre-con meeting looks like. We figured get in touch with the guy who's responsible for traffic.
And I met Jerry too. On that same subject, but he was fine with it.
We didn't get the FCP involved in that.
FCT was involved. They sent around a memo to all the merchants. They sent around a schedule, the construction schedule, when it was gonna be closed. That was done 2 months ago. We had meetings on Stengel with the merchants to explain it to them, what was gonna happen.
Is it appropriate, can I like to ask Mr. King a question, is that okay?
To ask me,
I just wanna know, the tractor trailers that you have, how do they currently come in and out to your site?
I've seen them come both ways, either south to north or north to south.
Okay.
It all depends.
And then how do they get out? They just go straight the opposite way, or do they turn?
So I agree with Mr. Eccles' concern. If you were going north on Stengel, that left onto mine. And that's pretty tight.
Yeah.
I think they were gonna go right and head towards Main Street.
Right.
I think if they're coming in from Main Street, they're gonna, because if you look at the map, it is angled, and I think it's easier, and that's how.
And they're gonna try to go to Brown, because that will be the
Well, if
first,
they're
that will
leaving, you'll
GPS will
probably
send them to
left, but if
Brown.
they're coming in, yeah.
Or even they'll go to Main Street and find the right, bread and culture and that.
make a right there and then.
So your other point, you're saying-
Church Street,
Yeah, they talked about a church.
Just make sure the signage.
It's not crazy.
It's, yeah. it'll be
Doable.
Church to Broad, right?
Yeah,
Church to-
yeah,
Church to-
yeah.
They'll figure it out, they always do.
I'm less.
Just don't want
I don't think
sidewalks
that's-
crushed
I
or
don't think
cars
that's
smashed. anything like that.
Right.
No qualification to that statement, they find a way.
I mean, if we wanted them to make the left turn onto my street coming out, Jay, would we have to eliminate all the parking spaces that are there?
Oh my,
I'd have to take a look at it, but I think the impact makes support for sure. That type of.
see, yeah, the layout, but the return circle, how it works like that. we have great concerns.
Well, I mean, obviously, we'll work with our professionals to, finalize a design that maximizes the, addressing the concerns raised by this board. So, no problem doing that. We do have the equipment out there. They're running out of things to do. We didn't anticipate we'd have a problem. People showed up and we have an issue that we need to address. I think we've gone a long way to addressing it. I just like the condition to be that we work with the borough's traffic engineer to come up with a suitable, acceptable detour plan.
So would our condition be changed to saying that, in the same way that we have Mr. Clerico do that with some of the engineering aspects, so we do that with Mr. Trautman, and say he has to sign up to his satisfaction that the plan is being looked at by suitable stakeholders and noticed enough to everything, before they can plan to start work on that aspect of it. Would that be fair enough? Mr. Trautman, that would be, I feel like you're almost there in the discussions you've been having, is that right?
That's right, and I'm capturing all of the commentary and good local knowledge that I just heard.
I think we could do that under the guise of the existing condition requiring a pre-con meeting, and then when we go back and amend conditions, we could just incorporate the physical detour plan as an.
The aspect I'm trying to bring into it is that it's to Mr. Trautman's satisfaction before
Correct.
they're allowed to start. I don't think we didn't have that in the original thing, just for this specific item.
So,
And I think the applicant hears what it is that you're looking
Yeah.
for them to do.
yeah, just so I'm clear with respect to the pre-con meeting, this is that process to work out the issues for the detour plan.
So yeah, under the guise of the pre-con, this would be part of the pre-con meeting. And
That's what I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
What more do we have to do for a pre-con? Because again, I'm just wondering.
to incorporate Mr. Troutman and his suggestions into what it is to his satisfaction, basically, with regard to the.
He would be signing off.
Yeah.
After this, instead of coming
Yeah.
back or whatever, it would be on Mr. Trautman to say, yes, I feel like everybody's
Correct.
been noticed, everybody's done what we've worked out the kinks, we've talked about, is that fair, Jay?
Yeah, I think we get a final detour plan and then we set up the pre-con and we come out and we show everybody what it is.
Right,
And then they install.
right, and include the relevant stakeholders that you feel appropriate.
Right, and I guess I would just request to see a copy of the public notice that was given to the Stangle merchants. All construction traffic will be to and from Route 12 only, which they're probably already doing.
George, you're taking notes.
Right, but we had concerns about, what was the small street roundabout, the.
I think somewhere around that too.
I think it's legitimate to also look at temporary no parking.
Yeah.
For those full parking spaces. Possibly.
Just to make sure that trucks can,
Turn
That has to be a governing body action. So subject to the mayor and council say, yes, now it's one more layer. And now all of a sudden, we're getting further and further into the fall.
I just wanna do this properly.
As long as the board understands the consequences, the more layers and cooks we have in the kitchen, the longer it takes to
I
bake.
don't know
So
if that is the case, they do temporary no parking for parades and car nights, and the governing body doesn't do resolutions for any of those.
okay, as long as police have that authority to do, not a.
Yeah, I think the chief has that authority.
He does.
So it has to be part of this.
No, temporary,
Yeah.
It's usually part of
Exactly.
these kinds of things and put this stuff.
Right. Now, we do have another item, if you
You
want
want
to
to say it?
introduce, however, we usually have a break at 9 and it's 9. So I'd like to suggest, is it okay if I suggest that we have 5-minute break for people to do what they need to do and then come back and do the next item at 5 minutes?
I brought a sleeping bag.
Right, so. What a break.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What? All right, let's bring the meeting back to order, please. For the record, for the recording, can we just do the roll call again once again, please, Colin?
Here. Councilwoman Sora. Here. Mr. Campion.
Here.
Ms. Giffen.
Yeah, here.
Weitzman. Here. Ms. Swingle.
She's not on yet, I'll tell you when she comes back on, as before making that.
Is Dennis on, Mr. Joe?
Here,
Mr. Schleifer?
Here.
Mr. Doshner?
Here.
Mr. Echo?
Here.
Oh, they're not here. Attorney Kuzinski? Yep. Engineer Thurka? Still there. Planner. Manis? No, that's it. Engineer Travis?
Here.
Right?
All right.
I was.
Oh, yeah, okay, so. Lloyd yours, again,
So, state your name, for the record.
William Feinberg. Mr. Feinberg.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Can you, please share your credentials?
Sure, my name is William Feinberg. I'm president of Feinberg and Associates, an architectural firm located in New Jersey. I've given testimony before more than 50% of the municipalities in the state of New Jersey. I've been licensed since 1993 in New Jersey and 14 other states that you
No license is current.
My license is current.
Madam Chair, I
In good stand.
Can you swear him?
I
Yeah, you
did.
did.
I was like.
I think that's what I heard him say.
it was on recording. Yeah, anybody have
Look
any
at this one, I
concerns
don't
with
get
this person as a?
I'm sorry, you're registered architect from Jersey, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's in good stand since 1993.
Okay, so just to set the stage, I'd ask you to take the board through the actual changes, but what happened here is when we presented the townhomes to this board previously for our site plan approval, we showed the same floor plan and the same elevation repeated for each of the various sections of buildings, be they 3, 4, 5, or 6 in a row. A number of those buildings are designated as affordable housing for reasons that that will be explained. We have to change the floor plan of those buildings. So, Mr. Feinberg, why don't you go into a little bit more detail?
So the previous floor plan that was presented had a 1-car garage on the first floor, rec room in the back of the garage, main living space, 2nd floor, bedrooms up on the 3rd floor. Because of the affordability requirements that are subject to this approval, you have 7 affordable units that are integrated within the market rate townhouses. So the exhibit that's up on the screen right now is a representation of the floor plan and a rendering of the affordable units. So I know this board, I went through review letters. I know you haven't seen the architecture for both the market rate and the affordables. But if you looked at this rendering and the rendering that's in exhibit B, I believe of the redevelopment plan, they're the same. So you wouldn't be able to tell walking down the street which unit is an affordable unit and which unit is not an affordable. They use the same materials on the outside, they use the same window types, everything's the same from the outside. Now, what the developer has done, because the requirements in New Jersey under the IBC 2021 New Jersey edition, section 1100 requires that affordable housing in New Jersey have the ground floor townhouses, excuse me, I'll back up. Townhouses are not exempt for affordable housing. The market rate units are exempt from ADA requirements. So the redesign was to take the garage out. And if you look at the exhibit, we still have what looks like garage doors on the front because we want them to look the same as the market rate units.
Can you enlarge?
Go ahead a little bit. Oh, now you're asking me to be. How do we do that? Computer, no.
Yes.
Computers are missing.
Grab that out of my head.
It says I can.
I did say I got my license in '93, so we still use pencils back then.
We're talking about the furthest unit to the right.
Yeah, we can hand that out if you want to pass that around. So we also have a mounted board. So
So you said that the market rate units are exempt from ADA. But the affordables are not.
they're not. So I'll read the section to you from the section 1100 of the code. So townhouses that are seeking multi-floor townhouses for the credit is sought for lower moderate income housing through the Council of Affordable Housing shall have the following features. So again, it has to be accessible. Okay, now
that accessibility is limited to the ground floor because it is a townhouse. And I'm gonna walk you through
We're not
those.
making Mr. Malone have a stroke and put in an elevator and.
No, that's not required. So what the code and requires, and you can see. Okay, so at the front door, when you come in, there cannot be any change in grade elevation from the sidewalk into the house. It can only be 1.5 inches. So it's the sidewalk is flush with the front door. What the requirements under the code is that we have to have an accessible route throughout the entire ground floor for someone that's in a wheelchair. Not that every accessible unit requires that you're in a wheelchair, but you could have knee surgery being on crutches. So the front door is accessible. It's a 3-foot wide door. You have to have an accessible route, means you have to be able to get to the kitchen. Minimum requirement for accessible route is 30 inches wide. So
So the kitchen on the ground floor too now?
yes, the kitchen is on the ground floor. That is correct. And we also have to have under those requirements, a room or area that can be closed off or a door can be added that can be used as a sleeping room.
Oh,
Okay, so if you are someone that comes with a disability that's, wheelchair bound, you're not gonna go upstairs and sleep in the other 2 bedrooms. You have the ability to be on the first floor. If you're someone, like I said, had knee surgery, you want, instead of sleeping on the couch in the living room, you can convert that. So in the back of this unit, when you come in the front, there's the stairs to the left, which takes you up to the other bedrooms. Then we have an accessible kitchen. So what that means is that the clearances for wheelchairs in front of the refrigerator, you'll see little squares and little circles drawn here. That represents how you access, if you're in a wheelchair, the refrigerator is a clearance of 30 by 48. You have to have a turning radius of 67 inches. That's what the circle represents. In front of the sink, you have to have a clearance of 30 by 48. And there also has to be a workspace that you can go underneath, that the cabinet can be moved as an adaptable feature, which is allowed in the state of New Jersey.
I have a couple questions. So the garage doors are just a facade?
Well, no, they're not. They look like garage doors, but they're storage for the trash cans and storage for the occupants. So when those doors open up, there's a 4'2" by 10-foot wide storage room. That'll outside will look like 2 garage doors that opens up, excuse me, and then that's for storage for trash cans. Because I believe in the market rate unit, your requirement is that trash cans have to be stored in the
So
garage.
my other question is there enough room for a car in those driveways?
The driveways,
Or do you have to give them all a handicap parking space?
no, the driveways have to accommodate the requirements for the cross slopes for handicap accessibility.
We could put Mr. Pucci on. The driveways will be suitable. We are losing 7 spots because we had previously counted the inside of the garage.
Yeah.
This is 7 spots. He'll testify, we're still above the minimum requirements.
But they're all gonna have to park in the parking lot?
They're all gonna have to park in their driveway.
In their driveway,
Right.
that's what I'm asking, so there is enough room for a car in the driveway.
And the driveway has to be sloped so someone getting out. The cross slope, from the driveway to the front door don't exceed 1 in 20. And the ramp we won't have any ramps, but the highest slope could be 1 in 12, to you need a ramp. So essentially the driveways will be flatter and the sidewalks will be flatter than what you'll see in market rate units. That's a requirement. So we've gone through the kitchen. Now we also have to have a full bath. So on the ground floor, sink, toilet, shower. Shower is a roll-in shower. Okay, so when you see at the back left-hand corner, that is a full bath on the first floor. That's a requirement. Again, the requirement under the regulations in New Jersey under the building code is that has to provide with an accessible bath and the route to it. So all the clearances for around the toilet, all the clearances at the sink, and be able to turn within that. And then the shower has to be a flush shower, like you see in a commercial.
0 inch.
0 inch, Correct. And then this area in the back, which is called the living area, this was designed so that it can be your living room or on that first floor. But it also has a closet, it has a door, it has accessible approaches to the door, so the requirement is that an area, and in this case, they took that area which is in the back, has to be able to either add a door or put some closure to make it a bedroom in the event that someone has to sleep on that first floor. The upstairs are exempt. We'll meet the UHAC requirements for the percentages.
So what's on the second and first floors then?
So the UHAC requirements that govern the numbers of ones, twos, and three bedrooms are no more than 20% ones, no less than 20% threes. So essentially you have 2 units out of the 7 are gonna be 1 bedroom, 2 units out of the 7 are gonna be 3 bedroom, and 3 units are gonna be 2 bedroom. So assuming that the first floor, it can be a bedroom for somebody, but upstairs there are 2 bedrooms set up, and then if it's a 3 bedroom required under UHAC, then those 3 would count. So
it's just a lot of empty space, open space up on the first floor?
oh, no, no, if you look on the second floor, up here, there's 2 bedrooms, 2 walk-in closets, washer and dryer, that's all upstairs. The third floor is just an attic space. So what we did is, instead of having a 2-story townhouse and a 3-story townhouse, so let me just scroll back to the elevations. It has windows. The windows will have opaque film on it, it's black. It's just an attic space, a clear attic space. It's not designed to storage right now, but essentially we wanted to make you're building that space to make it fit in, because these units fit in within the other market units. So that's.
So, but they don't, if they need to use the unit as an accessible unit, they don't get a living space officially, is that right? That, or they would just use one of the upstairs bedrooms?
There's actually an option in here for a loft. So if that's the case, that someone could take that, you find when these units are occupied, and that's something that is a function of the town and the applicant. Some people, yes, are wheelchair bound. So that's one type of person that might be looking to purchase here. Someone might, have cerebral palsy and walks with, cane. So you try to accommodate the worst condition. But obviously there are people that live in these units that have less disabilities than others. So the unit has a lot of functionality to it to accommodate all types of disabilities.
Just for the record, so a family who had a disabled family member that would be really relegated to the ground floor, they could still have the option of having additional family space upstairs, even though it might not be accessible.
That's correct, because in the condition where you have the 3 2-bedrooms, where you have 1 downstairs, 1 upstairs, you don't have to have the bedroom upstairs. That shows it on this plan here, the 1, 2, 3 to the right. It shows it as a family room. Apparently that other bedroom would be set up as a family.
So these are the units that are being used to meet the affordability requirement. There's nothing saying that anyone has to have any sort of disability at all whatsoever. These are just the income restricted units, right? So
yes.
So
yes.
functionally,
Yeah.
it's for anybody who's meeting those requirements, that's meeting our fair share housing obligation. Okay.
Correct.
I understand that you've gone to great lengths to make the facades and the outside look identical and the 2 questions, and I don't know if this is for you or if it's for Beth, is first question is, are we allowed to have different design types of units for the affordable versus the market rate units, as opposed to I understand they have to look the same on the outside, and you can't have a poor people entrance and all the rest of that and other nonsense. I understand that, which you've done, right? Or you can't cluster them all in one building, which you've done. So that's, obviously those are all checked, but are we allowed to have different design types and still meet the regs for, under
Listen,
fair share housing.
I was gonna
Yes,
ask a
so-
related question, which is, are they offering this floor plan for non-affordable units? Do they have to do that? And it's tied into the same question.
So the floor plan that they've proposed, although it's different than the market rate units, it's still compliant. They're still townhouse units and there are implications for future projects, but this is a third round project as long as, as a townhouse unit, notwithstanding the different floor plan, it remains compliant with UHAC. It remains compliant with our redevelopment plan, given the fact that their exterior facade amendments are intended to look like the garage, so they've maintained, my opinion is they've maintained consistency with the redevelopment plan from that perspective. So, and moving it towards compliance with the IBC requirements is consistent with affordable housing. So I don't have an affordable housing compliance concern, with one exception to something that I heard, which is the bedroom distribution for the 20% of 7 units is 1.4, that needs to be rounded down to 1.
This is, I always thought it was round, the
Math,
the one.
Math rules really
Okay.
do not apply for affordable housing.
Yeah, suffice it to say, we'll comply with you, Hank, whatever.
So then to Aaron's question, which was also partially mine, one of my concerns when this was presented was that for an aging population and for visitability, the fact that the original floor plans had no habitable spaces on the ground floors, there was the garage plus is there a possibility that this could be a floor plan option for the market rate units? Because, is that possible?
I'm just raising, one of the things I was gonna ask for, I think it's to be honest, I like the floor plan for my own personal use, since you have a lot more living space on the first floor, but the concern it raises is we're eliminating one parking space.
Right.
And the site has more parking than what's necessary. However,
At some point.
it seems that there's an opportunity to relocate some of the proposed affordable units to a location that is closer to the visitor parking spaces. So that with the likelihood that you're gonna have multiple cars associated with that 2 or 3 bedroom affordable unit, that second car or third car is gonna be parked much closer than perhaps down the corner and down the way. Yeah, so as people ask about, can we also do this for the market rate units? I'm comfortable, but I think we need to be careful about how many units are converted to that alternative floor plan, where they're located, to make sure they're still good access.
Yeah, because my concern at the time of the application was around aging in place and the original floor plan design did not allow for ground level entry. And I think that there would be a market for at least some of these, but the parking concern is obviously, and I'm not looking to unravel the whole thing, I'm just.
Yeah, and I think that since we're reducing the parking count, I mean, I'd have to come back literally every time I sold one of those units to amend my parking.
No, we don't want them to come back, but certainly to your point, is there something where we could say this can be offered, but only to a maximum of so many units in the general.
Karen, stop that whole conversation.
Okay.
The market rate units have garages. Here,
Okay,
I think
well, I was just thinking
let's
that
keep it simple.
there are people who want market rate.
George is
to
probably not
ADA
valid.
requirements as well, but
Option there.
I just wanted to ask, check as well, you say that they've done a really good job of making the facade look the same, which is an important factor. Is it, they do, however, they are different because they don't have the garage, right, the garage. Is that's okay though, they're allowed to not have the garage like the other units have? I just wanna double check, I love what they've done.
Yeah, in fact, it's very typical in townhouse developments for the affordable units to not have garages.
Okay.
So this is a common technique by developers.
Mhm.
It doesn't raise a compliance issue, given how this site is used in our housing plan.
Right.
Yeah,
Would it be more
and even the-
compliant? Would it be more compliant for a block like that? I know he's already told me not to say that's right.
But I would ask for, it just as, if the board is inclined to approve this, I would ask that I be able to work with your site, with Mike and.
To locate them.
Yeah, just to tweak the location, so every affordable unit is across or catty corner.
To the extent possible,
uh,
absolutely.
And I think there's gonna be easy opportunity, there are just a few units here and there that ought to be, moved.
Yeah, and again, just to save You know, the concerns, I mean, again, I don't know where the pecking order comes in, UHAC or, you know, the construction code, but the construction code is a code that's based on health, safety and welfare. I think that if they're mandating that we do this, that then affordable housing cannot say, hey, it's different.
And affordable, it ultimately points to the construction code for compliance with these issues specifically. So there's no conflict between the rules.
Well, to that point, it could be if a block like that, say where there's three, were all ADA compliant and one was affordable, it would be consistent, surely, would it?
If they were all ADA compliant.
If they're all ADA compliant, yeah, it'd still be consistent because you're offering the same type of unit to each market.
Yes, I don't think that raises a compliance issue. It could create a parking issue
Right.
if that were a technical use throughout the site.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think it would be you know, I don't have the end developer here who's gonna be building the townhomes, but I think that's a marketing, probably a marketing idea.
Got it, right here.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I didn't know.
This
Yeah,
is Todd Pesher from DR Horton, by the way.
I know. Yeah, so, you know. Identify, again, I'm running a problem that if I identify them on the plan. And I can't market them and sell them because nobody wants to take them, because it's you know, listen, it's great if you're disabled. But if we can't sell them, then I have to come back and amend my site plan. Again, to move them somewhere else, that I can't do that.
No, that's a market decision you make, that's a very, you just ask them a question to best.
So that's the.
No, I know that.
It's not.
A little sold.
The garages, just basic, simple question, but the carriage doors, can a car comfortably fit there when the doors open?
4 foot deep.
It's so like.
Oh, no, she's saying,
No, she
with
was
arms
outside.
out. Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, so you can get your trash cans out, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
It's not, it's actually.
Sorry.
Yeah, the driveways are long enough.
You need a 4-foot car.
Yeah.
Alright, is there anything else we need to consider on this aspect then of what's proposed, is there anything else? we should consider?
No, one of the outstanding items of completeness is just updated architectural plans. It seems that the final location and final design of the townhouses, because this is the first time I've seen this, can be confirmed as part of the normal resolution compliance process, as long as the board is comfortable with change.
Yeah, and we're fine with that. We anticipate, you know, another round of submissions to everybody, touching everything that's left. But these were, we needed guidance. These are the.
It's almost like reverse discrimination that I'm mine and I can't have a garage. Sorry, the state of New Jersey.
But if you don't have legs, you'd like that be right.
Well, look, I'm thinking the bigger evil, though, if there was no place for disabled persons, you know.
One, yeah, sorry,
I'm good.
I couldn't hear quite what you were saying.
It's not terribly relevant. So those are the 5 items that we have. I think that Stangle Road. The issue with respect to outside agency approvals and the timing with which they need to be satisfied. And I think those 2 items are straight up clarifications and conditions. We also then have the issue with the townhomes, which I would submit is not substantial because the appearance is virtually identical and the board doesn't really have jurisdiction over floor plans anyway. It's just that we had changed what we had previously shown you. Then the Lone Eagle fence. I mean, we can certainly revise the plans to show the single fence, and we've already heard the owner of that property say he prefers to keep his fence. We have the issue that we will relocate or donate any landscape materials to the satisfaction of our professionals. We have the soil testing in the basin issue, which seems to be the biggest issue. I would submit again, though, that in the context of that being, would you have voted differently when you have no alternative plan that could be devised here? I don't think that you would. I'd ask you to come to that conclusion as well. That it is not a substantial change because you would have voted the same way because there is not an alternative design that we could offer to you, nor that you could ask for. we're trying to keep things moving. We want to get the donation done. We want to get out to the utility companies. We want to finalize with the outside agencies. We need signed plans. We understand there's a number of things that we've already discussed will have to be completed before we can get a building permit, and we're dedicated to completing them. These are items that we feel are preventing us from moving forward, rightly so, because of the wording, and Mr. Clerico pointed that out, but we're looking for relief with respect to those 5 items. Everything else we will comply with.
Okay, thank you. For the record, I just want to state that Melissa Swingle came back online in the discussion at 9:19. Yeah. Okay,
That's my
Right.
presentation. I thank you again for your time.
thank you. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I think we want to, ask questions at this presentation, right? What about moving forward? Where do we feel we are? Could you kind of summarize where we could be?
Yeah, so I think Mr. Pepe really went through what the board, they're asking the board to consider. The issue with regard to the landscaping and the fence, I think we've pretty much resolved here tonight. If there is an amended site plan, we certainly would want to include that on an amended site plan, but the issue itself has basically been resolved and the condition can be amended to incorporate that. I'm gonna skip over the basin issue, that's condition 1231. Condition 1, page 16, which talks about outside agency approvals. Again, we talked about the fact that obviously the approval is conditioned on those, but we don't specifically talk about timing. In the event that there does need to be some other change to the plan because of one of those approvals require it, well, the applicant's taking that risk, but I think that they've demonstrated that it's a minimal risk that they're willing to take, so we certainly could indicate that the outside agency approvals could be prior to the first building permit, and that would incorporate, I would suggest, condition 9, which is the one about the HOA docs. I would recommend that language be changed should the board feel comfortable to say either before TCO or CO or sale or otherwise required by New Jersey law, DCA, whichever is the earliest. So basically, whenever you're required to have those in place, the earliest point that would be when they would have to provide that to the board, as opposed to a condition of resolution compliance before the plans were signed. The issue of the detour, I think we've talked about that a lot. I think that Jay hears where everybody is, and if the board is comfortable, we can amend that condition to allow Jay to have the flexibility to have that meeting with the applicant, with their professionals, incorporate the other people and the concerns that we've talked about. So we can do that as well. And then the issues, condition, I saw it as condition 7 and 42, which is the architectural changes. That again, if the board feels comfortable making those changes, which would have been subject to review by the board's professionals and resolution compliance anyway, then that doesn't really require any other plan changes. I think the most significant one that I'm hearing from the board's concerns would be the issue of the basins, and that would be the most significant site plan change that you're looking at. So,
But is there a mechanism like the concept of whether we insist on a public hearing before they can get on that? Can we allow the other ones, or what do we?
that is up to the board. You could allow all of them, you could allow one of them, you could allow none of them. And you could require a public hearing on everything. Certainly, we would memorialize this in a resolution that would come after the fact, whether that be after a public hearing or whenever, depending on which way you go. But you have the flexibility. I mean, replete throughout this resolution is the ability to say if there's a change, the board can determine whether it has to come back for a minute site plan or not. So you clearly have the ability to do that.
So we can allow them to continue with the other items, but say if a sticking point for us, say, is the basins, we can say you have to come back with that one item and everything else can continue.
Correct.
That's an option. We've got like It doesn't have to be the whole lot, don't have to hold everything up to that, for instance.
Yep, because it specifically does say in the condition itself that this board can determine if they're to come back for a minute site plan.
Okay. Well, how does anybody feel about that? Does anybody have any queries or comments on that kind of idea or any of the aspects that we've talked about?
I'd like to. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you stop sharing the screen so we can get, we can see people better, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm good with everything except the basin. I feel there was nothing to preclude them when they came before us to say, if we got this, we were gonna do the bioretention, this is what it would look like. And if we had to go the other option, this is what it would have looked like. And I just think the landscaping makes a big difference, and I'm not comfortable myself going with a retention basin where it's very vague on what the landscaping is gonna look like, especially by the park. It seemed like along Route 12, they were willing to put landscaping where you wouldn't see it. But I think the park's gonna be a lot harder, and it will look very different than what we approved, where it looked more natural. So they could have come with two options and said, if we got this, we're gonna do this, and we could have approved both based on the testing. So for me, I'd like to see a site plan. That's my view.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. Anybody else? I'm gonna go from Justin down. Justin.
I'm in agreement with Dennis, and I think one way to resolve it, I don't know, would require renderings to see what it would look like and what their options would be.
Right.
It could look presentable, and I think if we're going for the public hearing option, I think that will probably help move that along. And give residents a better understanding of what it would look like.
On that
The same.
set only or on all of them, or just on just the base of it?
Just in the basin.
Okay. Okay, okay. Adrian? Thoughts?
I agree on a public hearing just for basin
Hmm.
and I think we have to consider. Yeah,
For both bases.
for both
The
basin
base-
areas, yeah,
Okay,
but only certain for that, everything else. It's fine, I just have that concern that
right.
we're doing things, you know how I am about transparency, so like.
Yeah.
Things out in the open, like to pre-discussion.
Well, that's the one that's given us the most concern, for sure. Marsha, I think I know where you stand.
Yeah, the actual testimony about what things gonna look like in protecting it, it's just whether we all understand.
George, thank you, but I can barely hear that. That's okay.
You all understand, that there possibly is zero choice, but the public has a right to see it. Because I don't wanna have you come back to me in 2 years and say, what happened? I was there and that was not what was approved. So I think they have a right to weigh in, even if there's no choice. And I would like to do it sooner rather than later, if we get them on the agenda as soon as possible, within the parameters of public notice. I'd like to accommodate them.
Absolutely.
And
Can I
getting a
inquire about your
landscape-
checklist for?
And getting a landscaping design as well, so we can see what this is gonna
Landscape
actually.
design and renderings.
Well, we can talk with Cara about that, about what we say, but yeah, take that.
Can I, Eric, on that note, just for clarification purposes. If we did this on public notice with another resolution compliance issue, understanding that. I don't wanna go, your checklist is exhaustive and it's going to require a lot of time and work to go through that again. When we're limiting our focus to the.
He's just coming back.
You just-
Yeah, he's coming back with the amendment to one part of the plan.
Oh, we just want the landscaping.
I didn't see a separate one for an amended site plan, that's all I'm saying, I see
No,
that.
you're amending the plan that was previously deemed to be complete. Whatever waivers the board granted the first time around, or
We
whatever.
want to see
they-
the landscape
stand.
design and how it's gonna look, we have to notice acceptable.
Understood, just wanted to see how narrow we can keep that.
Very,
Very.
very.
Can I ask you guys a question?
No, I'm trying to have all the board have their say first, please. Jeff,
So I agree with everything that everyone said. Here's the problem is that, we're gonna have, there's not a good answer, there's not a good solution here, I don't think. Because,
It's not, to me, it's not about
Yeah.
discussion, it's about transparency.
yeah, no, and that's.
On grounds for see what the.
So, yeah, and I think that that's where I'm. If we're asking the narrow question, Kara, of would my vote have changed if.
The
this was
condition was changed to the way that the applicant is
requesting it, then I don't know the answer to that question with what we have in front of us, because what.
for everything.
No, just for the.
Just for
the-
this?
okay, just for the bench, because what we had given to us tonight was. We can move a tree, we can do this, it might look like that, you know, and it hasn't been, and it didn't have the details, so if, so I can't answer honestly the question, like, would my vote have changed, because there hasn't been enough presented tonight on the.
Alternative.
On the alternative that is being suggested. And so it may very well be that, like, what they design is gonna have to be what it's gonna have to be, because that's just what engineering wise has to happen. But it's kind of a hard, like, I'm asking like the legal question of like, if we are. The board has the ability to request an amendment if there's something that would have affected the vote, and I don't know how to answer that question with what was given to us,
So that's the answer to the question,
right?
because you also wouldn't be able to approve. Like, and what they're asking without greater detail. to
Right.
See what they're asking by way of an amendment.
So if that's the case, then we need to have as expeditiously and as complete as possible. Then I would say we need to have a hearing.
For
just
for those
this-
limited
But just for these limited purposes
of-
around the designs of those.
Do you
trees.
know what the fee structure looks like for an amendment? I also have to be concerned with this.
Discussion first before you get into some details, please.
And the answer to that is
No. And if I can, just follow on Jeff from your point, the whether we, I just wanna remind everybody, I'm really strongly remembering that what really gets me with this is we didn't want, we were very nervous to trust that we wouldn't have the soil testing done before we gave the approval. And a large part of our vote, and a large part, I feel, of my vote yes on that, in that situation, without having it ahead and being given the trust to the applicant that they would undertake that process correctly, was that we had the trust that they would do it, and that I seem to remember part of the discussion was that if the soil testing that came back, notwithstanding, they didn't even include Mr. Clerico as the resolution required. If they had to come back, they would change the site plan, they would have to change the design of the site plan, and they took that risk on. And yet now, they say, we don't wanna change it because it can't be any other way.
So
Well,
I-
we know the way it is based on the soil testing, I totally understand the engineering. But in terms
So
of
my-
whether my vote would change.
And Mr. Pritchard characterized it correctly, like my concern at the time, what I raised on the record was. Are you gonna have to move buildings around? I was
Right.
very concerned that the soil testing would really would lead the situation where there would have to be a substantial change to the flow of the site, position of the buildings, the alignments of the roads, all those other kinds of things. And what we're hearing tonight is that no, actually, they can accomplish those site plan elements in the existing footprint. It's just the design of the bases themselves that's gonna have to change because of what the difference in kinds of bases there. So which is where I'm like.
Right, but you're going on layout and time, whereas other people have already said
No.
they're concerned about the actual basis.
And again, I'm not, I'm inclined, based on what Kara just said, I'm inclined to say that we need to have the public hearing. I just, you know, I have no problems with anything else. It's
Yeah.
just on this issue.
Okay.
I mean, agreed. I appreciate that, like, nothing necessarily needs to change with the footprint, but like I saw what I agreed to last time. And I have the same hesitancy here is that like, I don't know if I would change. I don't know because I don't know, like, I don't see it, unfortunately. And I do wish there was a little more representation from the public, that would help.
Well, that's.
But that's something hearsay, that's different, but it's mostly that like, you know, I would love to have a definitive answer right now, but I just don't know. That's how I feel personally.
Yeah, we have the right to see a full landscaping plan,
Right.
right? Anything we're approving, and we haven't seen it.
I think that's.
It's not unreasonable.
Right, do we need a full public hearing tonight? I guess that sounds like John.
I mean, the only trivial thing is the landscape change to the base, right? I mean, at the end of the day, Broad Street wants to see their flooding issues resolved. How you get there from a public hearing versus you meeting with them on a regular basis, I would assume through the construction process, I guess that's. I mean, I think if I wouldn't want to see all these other things being held up. While we wait for a public hearing to talk about landscaping, when we should get this road.
Go back to the DEP anyway.
Yeah.
But yes,
We
so
don't
can
have
we
to,
do,
I
can
say
we,
we can
can
allow the
we,
other four and just have. the-
can you sign off and then kick this down the road
Yes.
once DEP approves, then go back to a site? And then what are we asking for? Are we just asking for a landscape change plan? We should be very specific on what that amendment is. I mean, we just.
Well, the amendment's gonna be the plan, the revised plan they have with the basin and whatever.
So just the
details.
placement of the trees and whether we're gonna change the.
Sort of my biggest concern with the plans, like.
But we're not-
We could do that sooner rather than later.
Right, but we're not holding anything up.
No,
No, because it has to go to the DEP anyway.
The other four things going, I don't think it's gonna bring in, Mike Campion. Do you have any, I wanna make sure all the board have had a, input.
I'm not inclined to have them come back for another public hearing.
Okay,
I don't want landscaping around there. It's easier maintenance for public works.
alright, thank you. And then Melissa.
I'm in agreement with everything as well as agreeing with everybody with the basins. I'm sorry, Mike, from the environmental commission standpoint, losing the bio basins is kind of a hit. So I think the environmental commission would like to see an upgraded landscaping plan with some green areas. Maybe we can compromise since it is gonna be more work for DPW, but I think we would like to see greenery somewhere.
I think the other sticking point to Beth's point before is the board would need to grant a waiver exception from the requirement of the redevelopment plan, which is well within your purview to do. But before, it was substantially similar to the bio retention basins that were required. And this would be an added relief, right, that I don't see, as much as I hate to say it, based on a lot of what I'm hearing, I think that's a consideration that has to.
So that would be done
That's
later at the hearing once
Yeah.
DEP approves the.
No,
Well, that can be done, they don't have to wait to get DEP.
Right, they could.
They can take the exact same approach that they have now, they're more than welcome to do that, that's their decision.
Yeah.
You
But in
can't
terms
require
of-
them to do otherwise.
That's a good reminder that it's not just about whether we want more trees, it's the best
We have to
point.
grant that relief.
There's two, so that for me means it's like, there's two reasons to have to do that process
Are we-
and get it done
so
properly and get it done
Are
correctly.
we allowed to grant that relief without a public hearing?
No.
So then that answers the
That
question.
answers the question. So we can grant the other four things, but then, so can you say what might be a possible
So what I would say is,
vote?
you'd want a motion to amend conditions, and I'm getting all encompassing here, 5E, 1, 9, 28, 7, and 42. Which essentially are all of the ones that we talked about in the manner that I said before. And then we would require the applicant to come back for a public hearing to show amended plans to the board regarding the redesigned basins. Those are conditions 12 and 31, along with a landscape design and whatever else the board feels. And I I would say that we can certainly look at the requirements for amended site plan and to see, because this is very limited to this one issue. So, you know, we can certainly see what the ordinance requires and doesn't require at that point, but that's the only, it would be for that limited issue only.
Would be more ad hoc, right? At that point, would you put in the conditions on what would be completeness at that point? Based on, would we decide that in the? Like, it's more ad hoc, right? Because there's an amendment, which is.
It's an amendment to a plan or.
It's an amendment to a plan, yeah, it's an amendment to a plan, I mean, so, you know, it's the, there, and I
It's
can
more
look
about
in
what you
here
need
too to find,
Make the decision.
there's a condition in here, condition 42, I think it is, essentially says that the project shall be constructed in accordance with all testimony of the applicant and the application documents, in addition to the information except as otherwise set forth. So they're asking to construct something that's different than what was approved. Technically, that would be an amended plan, but we can call it a revision to condition 42, and we're now making a change to one of the plans or some of the plans to incorporate these changes.
And would we have to-
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
suggest. Can we do this
I
as
see where
the
you're
same
going.
process that we're doing
Yeah.
tonight, except on public
On public
notice?
notice.
With an appropriate plan set to show you what the,
I mean, we
Redesign
can do,
basically.
we can do it that way.
So we could mention those two conditions.
Correct.
And would we mention the condition of the, in the redevelopment agreement that Beth had mentioned that we would, that would be
Yep.
part of the
Yep.
public hearing?
Yep.
Okay,
I make that motion.
okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I can say.
Thank you. So a vote yes is to allow all the other 4 items we discussed to go ahead as we discussed in this meeting. And the soil tested, so item 12 and
1231, and we'll
and
incorporate
redevelopment.
42 in there, because that's the
42.
one that we'll be changing to amend plans to show this, you know.
And the relevant clause, the redevelopment
Yep.
agreement, we have to put that in, whatever that was from there.
Yep.
Which
we're
for
looking
my-
for a public
Which
hearing.
for my champion's position is that we don't have a choice, we have to do a public hearing,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. All right. We'll feel good with that. Charlie, ready? We have a motion in a second.
We have a motion in a second, the mayor and Hannah.
Anna,
Okay, now I know, Mayor Karen?
Yeah.
Ms. Weitzman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasari? Yes. Mr. Campion?
No,
Ms. Swingle?
Yes.
Mr. Shows?
Yes,
Mr. Slinger?
Yes.
Mr. Duff?
Yes.
Mr. Echo?
Yes.
You
Oh,
know,
wait,
right.
no, Don doesn't vote.
Don doesn't vote.
You didn't call Karen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Don.
Okay. I'll put it
I'm
aside.
surprised by that.
Carla, yes.
It throws me off when person that's motioning in second, I've never seen that.
Okay,
That throws me.
sorry, yes. So. Motion. Yeah, well.
Switch.
All right, thank you. We'll have to obviously notice and we'll have to work on notice periods and work out.
Yeah,
I'm gonna set the date until we work out the notice.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, do we know when the next planning board meeting is?
We have one on the ninth.
April
we have-
20, August 26th,
Nine.
September 9th, and September 16th.
Oh, September.
Do you know if there's August 26th is full? I don't know if I get the notice though.
Then we have a public
Yeah.
hearing.
We've got multiple public hearings on the 26th.
We can't do it that night?
I don't, I mean, I think we have a fairly full agenda, but we haven't got.
I mean, we'll have to go, here we're going to, so we've got Flemington Circle Reality is.
I've got 3 days. to-
26th, right? Did less notice, the 26th or not? I thought they had done it, they only did it
And they have
today.
to have their application in.
Less will have to be
Well,
on
I
the
think
9th.
maybe there is not an application. It's the same thing that we just did this
No,
time.
not you.
Not you, we don't.
Yeah.
That's Don, come on.
I gotta pay closer attention.
How much notice does he need?
It's 10 days, which gives me 3 days, which is possible, but frankly.
So we
I mean,
have
look,
public hearings, we'll
we
do
have
those.
those.
Look, y'all can notice and we carry, we've done that
Yeah, let me
before.
think,
and
that's a good solution.
We can do that, is there, I mean, they have to get plans in. You guys to look at. I mean,
They're the ones I
we know what they are pretty much,
Yeah.
I presume they're pretty much done.
Plans are good.
We only need the plans for the basins.
But the plans have to be available for the public to look at
10 days.
10 days before,
10 days
so if you
before.
do that in 3 days, that's on y'all.
If you can do
Thank
it,
goodness it's not for me.
we.
No, it's on you, that's it. Which I think, Don, I think
I
today
didn't know
was
the
the
paper.
deadline for notice because we had one person
Alright.
phone up and begging to know.
Yes, please. All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Before we stay on the agenda, I missed an item, and I know my champion was asleep early. So, I needed to turn over, my range reports to my champion for the planning board. So, I'm doing that now, Mike. You're on.
You have the floor, Michael.
Mayor, can you repeat that? I couldn't hear you.
You have the floor for the
Regarding,
issue.
regarding the issue we talked about at the DPW meeting, that I said, you need to be brought up to the planning board, and I said, I'm just turning it over to you.
Oh, under our stormwater permit, which we received 2 years ago, our new one, we have to re-examine our stormwater ordinances, which myself and Terry Vogt from RVE will be looking it over and present it to the Public Works Committee, and then we'll be contacting the planning board.
And what will you need us to do, Mike?
If there's any changes to our ordinance, we'll present them to you, to the
Right.
board.
Okay. Just keep me updated about which one you'll want to come to then.
Yeah, well, it should be done by the end of the year.
Okay, sounds good. Something good to do for Christmas. Perfect. Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's move along.
Yeah.
Can we move, we've got another bit to discuss. All right. Tonight is discussion, I believe there's discussion about the zoning ordinance from the governing body. We've sent that through to you. The ordinance was issued by the governing body today officially, right? You sent it to us today. So Cara's gonna fill us in on what we need to do now, because for people that haven't done this before, but we also, even if you have done it before, this is slightly different. Because it was generated by the governing body.
Procedure is the same.
Procedure's the
Procedure is
same.
the same, but the extent of the board's review may be a little bit different because it didn't originate with us, is exactly what you're saying. So a lot of times the board will draft ordinances, send them to the mayor and council for consideration. And that's where it starts. Here, this ordinance, this time around, I mean, I guess technically it originated with the planning board, but the changes originated with the council. So this is really the first time that the board is seeing these changes, but the procedure is no different. The ordinance is adopted on first reading by the council, which they did last night. It is then recommended after first reading that it be referred to the planning board. The planning board has 35 days. from the
45.
date.
35. 35.
Two people have told me 35 and two people
Well, I
have told
made
me
the
45.
public hearing October 8th because I thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I said that.
You took, and I
I
said,
said
you,
ordinance.
you told me.
I thought it was 45, but I
45.
didn't have Cox in front of me, so I don't know.
Yeah, I said
She told me it was 35 as well, so.
It's 35.
35
Then I'm-
and two.
I'm off.
If you let me find it, I'll find the ordinance again, but what I
Well-
had said was 35.
Regardless, our plan is to be well within the
Correct,
35 anyway,
correct.
with what we're doing.
Yep,
So-
and what happens is you're going to review that ordinance for consistency with your master plan. Beth will look at it as well and give you your or the thought process behind what the master plan says, behind whether or not this is consistent. And then the board makes its findings based upon its review and based upon that. The board can find substantial consistency, substantial inconsistency, and in addition with either one of those, can also make recommendations back to council. Goes back to council, council then has to address the recommendations. And if it is changed in any way, they have to reintroduce the ordinance before they go to second reading. Also, if there are any recommendations that this board makes that council does not want to follow, They have to put on the record the reasons why they're not following those recommendations, and that then becomes part of the record as well. So that's the process.
Right.
While you guys talk about that, I'm gonna find the.
Right, what I just wanna add to that is, we will be doing that process. We will be doing our consistency review meeting on the 9th of September. So I think people will be here. Before that date, we will be receiving a report from Carl McManus's office for conflict issues. Jim Kyle has agreed to do the report for us, and so he'll be issuing a report. We'll see that as soon as we can. The subcommittee will talk to him a little bit to help him along with that process also. And he will be issuing a report, which will be the one that we will review. So everyone will receive that and look at that when we get it, look at the master plan, so you're ready for a discussion. It's 35, it's confirmed, it's 35. That's okay, we want to say,
Alright, 2025.
Prior to the adoption of a development regulation, revision or amendment thereto, the planning board shall make and transmit to the governing body within 35 days after referral, a report including identification.
Okay.
55D. Just that.
55D is the whole.
And I'm looking to see if it's 32 or 6.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, I couldn't open the document that was sent on the 23rd. It failed to open, so.
I tried to open it because I knew what it was, but I sorry. The ordinance.
It's the ordinance. It was in VOCX format, but it was also in track changes, so nothing in the Mac.
I just sent the new one out this morning.
The new one out
This morning.
The one that we introduced.
We had one previously, but the one that was actually introduced went out came out to us all this morning. So the 9th of the 9th is in plenty of time, because we've got lots of things going on now, got moving parts. If we have to move that on to 9/16, we're still within our 35 days. So we will have time if there are severe questions or issues, like that. All right? I think if that's all anybody needs to know, if you have any more questions, you can contact any of the people that you would contact normally. Fair enough?
I think that's it.
All right, okay, that's.
So we're putting that on which one?
9/9.
9/9.
September 9th.
Oh.
And that's the meeting that's on an odd week, so everyone make sure you've got it in your calendar, because I know I usually have mine on 2nd and 4th, but make sure that's in your calendar correct. All right, so that's, I know I wrote discussion, but that's not the discussion, that's what it's kind of less now. All right, moving on to item 9, chair items. I had my camping, but we did that already. The only thing I want to add is I asked Melissa to chair the PB Ordinance Rules Committee that we never quite got going. So she's gonna do that and be in touch with you.
Okay.
She has my notes. I'm just recognizing that I can't do it. So I can't, so I'm ceding chair to her, and she's gonna make sure that happens. It's not that difficult. And then they'll be bringing that to us at some point when they've done their work. Hopefully that won't take too long. Anybody else have anything they want to raise other than going home?
I just have one item. I was wondering if Kara had anything related to the circle, anything new with the sign on the circle? that we were talking-
No, I don't. I have
Nothing.
absolutely nothing.
Okay.
Okay.
Nothing. Nope.
Well,
I'll
then-
put that back on the list. I mean.
Kind of.
Well, I was gonna ask about that too, but then I was asking about Millie's. What's going on?
I know it came up at council yesterday.
So nobody on council had a clue,
Right.
and Robin Lapidus from FCP had no clue.
Right.
And she's one person who should have known. So, so she was told by the trustee liaison to find out.
Oh,
It's okay over there.
I do want to add something back in. Dennis, you can report and Melissa can, on the zoning ordinance, we're going to incorporate the HPC comments a little bit into our report. I'm just letting everyone know. We're gonna have them come in through our process and the environmental, because It was, council yesterday said that they didn't wanna hear from you, but
But-
I think
oh,
we did, they did say, no, one person.
Well,
Council
they
president.
can discount HBC because they can do that, but they cannot discount the environmental commission. They
Right,
have extremely broad authority under state statute.
but
They have a right
I,
to weigh in on this.
right, absolutely, so they're gonna come.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Kara.
I think they both have the right to weigh in on it if they exist, but neither is binding, at least as much as the planning board is. concerned.
Correct.
We can
Council
add it
thinks
into, I figured we could add it into our report and send it all to council in one go if we wish, but I just wanted to let HPC know, because if you listen to the meeting last night, it sounded like you weren't gonna be included, but it's in, the ordinance covers a historic district, so therefore your viewpoint should be.
Right.
And will be requested in a quiet place.
Yeah, we'll have it after the August 20th meeting. We'll get it to the planning board.
Thank you very much. All right, so back onto the item 10, the bills. did we see any bills to audit? No bills to audit, let's move straight along.
I saw,
Did I?
yeah, there are a bunch.
Did I?
They were in docket.
Oh, they were in the docket. We used to get them separately, it threw me off, I'm sorry.
the bills.
Second, it's the packet.
I looked through it.
All right, so I didn't look at them, so but anyway, we have a motion
Second, yeah.
from Doshna and a second from Weitzman.
So who points?
Yeah, it's just to audit,
Yeah.
it's not,
Yeah,
do we have to do a vote?
there was only two.
Yeah, money.
No roll call on that one, sorry.
Okay, Mr. Dosh,
Yes.
Ms. Weissman, yes, Mayor Carroll.
Yes.
Councilwoman Thesaurus, so.
Yes.
Mr. Campion.
Abstain.
Because I paid her back. Ms. Griffin.
Yep, that's right.
I'll abstain because I didn't look at it.
Ms. Weisel,
Yes.
Mr. Show,
Yes.
Mr. Schwenger.
Yes.
I already said talking. Okay.
Thank you. All right, item 12, executive session is not needed, I assume, thank you. Item 13, a motion to adjourn.
Yay.
Yay, thank you very much, everybody.
Take care.
Just need the motion.
I think that's.
Sure, we can do that order.
Yes. So good idea.
Yeah.